Hey guys, welcome back to Cereal at Midnight. This is a casual conversation with me and my buddy Brian Krey from Alpha Video. Brian, welcome back to Cereal at Midnight.
I'm honored to be here. I think it's like 10 years to the day you posted the last one with me.
10 years, huh?
Yeah. No, 1 year.
I was like, has it been that long? I don't know. I don't keep track of stuff like that. But I'll tell you what, we were talking about comics just now, and you said, this is I wanted to. I was like, hold on, let me hit record. You were saying that you have a friend that used to. You have a comic friend who
My
doesn't
only
read new
comic friend,
stuff
yeah.
anymore. I think a lot of us sort of age out. I think a lot of us, when you get to a certain point with comics, it becomes too much because there's like 17 different Bat Family titles and 17 X-Men titles, and at some point you're like, I can't keep up with all of this.
I mean, people say, "Oh, you have a lot of boundaries with your collection," but I kind of uh I have favorite characters and I have favorite writers, and when something I start not liking something, I just kind of I try to drop it. Now that's harder since I moved to Philadelphia because it's not like when I worked in New York City, like there's Midtown Comics, which is huge, and Forbidden Planet, which is huge. You can pretty much find anything you want. But the smaller stores here, like if I didn't have a pull list, I wouldn't be able to get some of the books I read.
Yeah.
Um, so that's a little harder because I always feel bad when the comic book store I go to, JD's Hero Complex, it's right around the corner from me, and I kind of consider the guy a friend. I'd like to think he's a friend. He's actually in some of the movies that we've put out, the Daisy Durkins horror movies that are done by his friend Mark Mackner, and
Really? Your comic
yeah,
book guy is in those movies?
yeah, and I think he kind of resents the fact that we put them out on disc because I always kind of bring it up and he's kind of embarrassed, and I'm like, I like the movies,
Yeah.
and it's your friend directed them, so that I don't really understand. Um, but yeah, I always feel bad when I pull a title because I feel like I'm taking food out of his kid's mouth or something like that.
That's a real feeling. If you've got a pull list at a comic book shop and if something ends up in there that you didn't want to be in there, or if the luster falls off a title for you, but you're still kind of obligated to get it, you
Yeah, it's more of an obligation of the person who owns the store to me than it is like, well, I have an obligation to Robin, yeah,
yeah,
or Nightwing, or yeah,
yeah.
uh, yeah, because I don't know how comic book stores stay in business. I mean, I hope they
Well,
always,
I think a lot of them don't now.
yeah, a lot of them don't, and yeah, so it's uh for like the last 20 years, I haven't really read. Uh, I stopped reading Marvel around the time that like Brian Michael Bendis started writing everything, like when they did Avengers Disassembled.
Everything.
That
Yeah.
was that was really like when Marvel changed to something different, and I just never was as big a Marvel fan. So
I started reading. So he's was all new X-Men for people, and I
the
know
Joss
some big
Whedon.
people watching this video or listening to this conversation are like, "What's all new X-Men?" The premise was they get the original team from the 60s to come
Oh,
forward in the future
yeah,
and help solve some of the because the X universe is so dense. They're like, we got to bring back the original Cyclops, Jean Grey,
yeah.
Beast, uh, Iceman, and Angel to fix the problems with the modern X comics. And and Brian Michael Bendis was writing it, and it was like issue 4 or something like that, and they're having a conversation outside. I think they're outside the Blackbird. There's basically like they're talking by the plane,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
3 issues later, they're still talking outside the plane.
I hate his style of dialogue. I hate it. I don't know. Some people say it's like based on David Mamet or something, but yeah, I just
I
don't
want
like.
to say I heard it might have been him, it might have been somebody else, would go sit in the mall and listen
Yes,
to teenagers talk when they walked
that's
by.
super creepy.
It is a little creepy. Yeah.
Yeah, he said that about writing Ultimate Spider-Man. I think that was it.
Yes.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
just like, but
Hey,
yeah,
I remembered something.
there
Look at
was
me.
no, there was like a period where, like, and when Bill Jemas and Joe Quesada were running Marvel, and they were kind of like they were really antagonizing like the fans and the fan press, like saying, "Oh, you guys are all a bunch of losers." I think they were basing it on like the WWF, which I've never been a wrestling fan, which is strangely something that has alienated me from people that I meet because there are a lot of wrestling fans among like the geek community, I guess.
Right. Oh
And
yeah.
it's really turned me off. That just really, and I just never like the last thing I really, I think I was reading Captain America when Ed Brubaker was doing it with Steve Epting drawing, and they did this thing where like Civil War, Captain America died in it.
Hmm.
And it's like I had to read Civil War, like Civil War interrupted the one Marvel book I was still reading. And
Yep.
I don't like Mark Millar is another writer I don't really like.
Yeah.
And so it was just like, yeah, that's it.
I'm
This
reading
is
his
my last
Fantastic
book.
Four run right now. The Mark Miller. It's Mark Miller writing it and Brian Hitch on art from like 2000.
Do you like that? Because there's some
No,
really out of character
it's
stuff,
not good. It's yeah. It's as if this is a
like
problem
Ben
I
is
have with the.
like a villain is like I don't know, like beating him up and he's like crying. He's like, Reed, help me. And it's just like that's not how Ben acts.
It is as if everything that Mark Miller does is he has never read the comics he's working on.
Yes, yes. Well, he actually said that when he did Ultimate X-Men that he'd never read X-Men. He like watched the movie or
Yeah,
something.
and we're like, we can tell. It's clear.
I mean, I know that's a reboot, but you still have to kind of know who they are, right?
Right. Well,
Uh,
that's a huge problem is pairing creators with projects that they don't seem to have any passion for. And I
it's all
guess you
about
get a
money.
fresh take, but do we want that fresh of a take? Or do we want something that feels rooted in those characters?
I don't want a fresh take anymore. I've reached the
Yeah,
point where I don't want a fresh take. I mean,
I
I'm
want a
too old
status
to want
quo.
yeah, I don't need a fresh take on something I've been following for years.
Well, the problem with those when Casada took things over back, it was like 2001 or whenever it was.
It was a long time ago. I
Yeah,
really have not been
but
reading
see
Marvel in a long time.
that was a time that I got back into that stuff, back into Marvel because I was out of it during the whole, obviously I was pretty hot and heavy into the comic scene in the 90s when there was all the chromium covers and it was, I mean, all that stuff was really big. And then they went bankrupt. The Marvel went bankrupt and they rebuilt slowly. And when Quesada came in, he stripped the line down to, I don't remember how, it was like 12 titles or something like that. The essence of it was it became very approachable because there was one X-Men book, there was one Spider-Man book. I mean, it was
I think there
very,
was more than one of both of those, but not as many as there are now and were
okay, there
before.
might have been two. There might
Might
have
have been
been,
two. Yeah, I think there was
because
still
before
two.
the Ultimate stuff, um,
Yeah, maybe.
there was
What
Marvel
I
Knights.
remember, my last really period with that was remember they did this around the time of the bankruptcy. They gave some of the books to the image guys that had left Marvel and basically,
Heroes Reborn.
yeah, Heroes Reborn,
Yeah.
which was terrible. But then
Yep.
they did something where when that ended, they did Heroes Return,
Yep.
where they had
And that was good.
that was the last period I really enjoyed Marvel, where it was Kurt
It
Busiek and
was like
yeah,
almost 30 years ago.
yeah.
Oh
Well,
man.
that's absolutely one of the things that's funny is that um like in the time I've been here in Philadelphia and like doing Alpha Video, a lot of people younger, some not so younger, that work for me as like artists or DVD authors. They find out I'm into comics and they always want to like quiz me on things and because they want to know what's going to happen in the movies next, I guess.
Ah,
I really think it's like the Lost syndrome where I remember when Lost was on, everybody was like at the water cooler, like, well,
yeah.
what do you think is where do you think they're in limbo or you think they're in hell? Everybody wanted to figure out how the show was going to end because they wanted to be the one that solved it. It's not
Yeah.
so much about enjoying it, it's about like solving
Hmm. And
uh
being right.
and yeah, they're always asking me about comic book movies because they think I have all this comic book knowledge and it's really ridiculous with Marvel because some of the characters in the movies I've never read a single comic with.
Yeah.
I've never
Well,
read
nor have the creators of those movies.
a
So,
yeah, so I should be I don't know I've never read a comic with Kamala Khan or Miles Morales or
right.
you know. Like I've said, the Carol Danvers in the movies is very different than the one I remember from Claremont's X-Men and BCX Avengers. Completely different character, you know.
Comics are in a very different place now
Yeah,
than they
yeah,
were in
yeah.
our salad days.
Oh, well, I don't know about that. I mean, I
But
still,
DC,
yeah,
DC feels pretty status quo-y in a lot of ways.
yeah. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, at a certain point, I was like, well, I only have, so much money, and I decided to concentrate on DC because those were kind of the characters that I always gravitated
Yeah.
towards. Even though at first, when I started reading comics, I didn't. I started with Marvel because I didn't understand. DC had just done the Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover that kind of gave them free reign to reboot some of the characters, and I couldn't follow any of that because I knew a lot about the characters from just like the Super Friends
Hmm.
and coloring books and book and record sets
Well,
and
that's an interesting point because it
which
was
is
the comics were not the only gateway into that stuff. Those characters were in a lot of different
yeah, and
things.
I think that's a first that I think maybe you and I age that's a first where I don't know if that quite if you were growing up in the 60s and 70s maybe that wouldn't quite so much be there that your gateway to it would be the comics and not ancillary stuff or whatever you want to call it. I mean, when I was a young kid, before I started kind of reading them, it's 7 or 8. Every comic I saw terrified me. Everything was scary. Everything looked scary, and I guess I was a very fragile kid, but you know, I had a comic, a Jack Kirby. It was when they did the mini series that was promoting like the Superpowers toy line, and
Hmm.
Jack Kirby drew it actually, and
Yeah.
there's a cover of uh, like Darkseid like holding up the heroes and their tinies like gonna eat them, and that just like that terrified me as a kid, and I think I gave it to my brother like Tim, can you hold on to this because I didn't want to look at it.
This is too much for me, man.
Yeah, and then there was a Captain America comic I had where and I didn't understand this until I like reread the story years later. There was a whole thing where like Red Skull was in suspended animation like Captain America was, so he didn't age, right?
Hmm.
But the it started wearing off. It was like some special gas. So he takes off his mask at the end. This is Captain America 297 by JMD Mateus and Paul Neary. And he takes the mask off and he's got this grody, gnarled face underneath because he's now the age he would really be in whatever it was, 1985.
Yeah.
And that terrified me. So it was just like every time I'd have a comic here and there, it would just scare the crap out of me. I could keep going.
Well,
There's
okay.
another.
I'm reading this. I'm going to tie this into what you're
Oh,
talking about.
that's funny that you got that because
You have it too?
no, I got this one.
Oh
Which is
yeah, yeah, yeah.
The end of the Gardner
The
Fox
earlier stuff, right?
Bukowski
So I
run.
love
Bill
these.
gets
For people
Denny
that
on
are
the
listening
Gills.
to the audio version, I'm holding up a copy of DC Finest Justice League of America, The Return. I love these because if you get them from in stock trades, you have a local comic book shop, and I do not. But if you, I
Yeah,
ha
but I don't get trades from there. I'm not
oh, okay.
crazy.
Well, when these come out, the first week that they come out on at In Stock Trades, which is the
Yeah.
same company that's owned by DCB Service, Discount Comic Book Service, they're 17.99, which is
Oh
crazy.
wow.
They've got a $40 cover price, so they're
And
more
what's
than
the
half
shipping?
off. Huh?
And what's the shipping?
If you spend $50, the shipping is free. So that
Okay.
encourages you to buy more than one DC Finest or whatever.
Uh,
But
uh.
I was just reading last night. I'm about halfway through it.
My,
And
I love the Despero story in
okay,
there.
that's where I'm at. They have
That's
just
that's
introduced that he's
fantastic.
back.
That's fantastic.
But I wanted to
He
show you
crucifies Batman. You'll never see that in a movie.
what is it?
He crucifies Batman at one point.
Yeah, that man, they
Bro,
could
you're not going
do
to see that happen to Robert Pattinson.
if somebody's paying attention. They're like, hey, that's a good idea. I'm trying to find the cover of this would have freaked you out. That's why I'm so for people that are wondering what this is, this was the Justice League of America run from 1985 to 1987. And in this particular issue,
Oh yeah.
they all age. This
Yeah,
like
that's poor
parasitic,
Gypsy. Oh my gosh.
yeah, they're all like decrepit and shriveled in age. So I'm sure that would have scared you when you were
Yeah.
1985. That actually
Yeah,
probably is
yeah.
1986, but yeah.
That was around the time because I like I said, I started I there's so much stuff I don't remember about my childhood or whatever for whatever reason, good and bad. But I've narrowed it down that I think I started finally reading comics because the first comic I started reading was Transformers, and I think that was because I thought the show ended. But they actually did 3 episodes that I didn't find out about until I started
Yeah.
buying bootleg VHS tapes at
Have you seen those
conventions.
compendiums, the Transformers compendium volume? I have it, but it's not. I'd have to go
Oh, the
get it.
ones that Skybound is doing now.
Yeah, it's
That
50
that looks
issues.
amazing.
It's like 50 issues in a one in a
Yeah,
single.
I mean, I have a lot of the Titan books reprints and some of the ones that IDW did. But yeah, I mean, something I would always recommend to you or anybody is um, that, the Transformers comic was so popular in Britain, it came out every week. So they didn't have enough material just reprinting the American stuff. So they got a writer named Simon Furman to write stories that took place in between the American issues they were reprinting. And I recommend anybody that, likes Transformers or to read them in that order. It's fantastic.
Well, and
But
Simon Furman kind of became the architect of the Transformers
yeah,
comics in the way
because
that Larry Hama was the architect of G.I.
right.
Joe.
Because when Bob Budiansky, who wrote the American comic, wanted to leave, he recommended, well, get the guy who's writing those UK stories.
Hmm.
So he wrote the last 20 issues of the US series. And then when Beast Wars came around, the guys who did that, Bob Ford and Larry Attillo, they used a lot of Simon's ideas from his UK and US Marvel comics for uh, their take on the mythos, and that's kind of spilled over into everything else since then. The
Yeah.
idea of them having Sparks and Unicron and Primus and all. He does Simon in the UK comics is a much better origin for Unicron than they did on the cartoon because he didn't know that he just saw the movie. He didn't know they were doing so he kind of did his own take on the post-movie adventures that took place in the year 2005.
The distant future of 2005.
Yeah, yeah. So it's kind of interesting. It's interesting because a lot of people, I love the third season of the show, but a lot of people don't like it. So, if it's interesting to read because it's an alternate take on that cast of characters.
Have you seen, I don't remember if we've talked about this, that newest Transformers movie, the animated one, it's called
You know, I really wanted to see it because, I mean, I didn't want to see it because of what I saw of it, but what I read of people reacting to it, it seems like the fan base really liked it.
it's pretty good.
Okay, so hopefully I see.
Whereas those movies are all terrible, all the live action Michael Bay movies
Yeah.
are just terrible. And listen, if you're listening to this and you like them, that's fine. But they don't have any connection to the source material whatsoever. And this new movie kind of does.
Yeah.
It's not slavish, but it feels as if they kind of know what they're doing.
I think they built on whatever had been established.
You
Uh,
know what's funny too? I just remembered this. I had talked to I'm not trying to name drop here, but I had interviewed Don Murphy, the producer of those Michael Bay movies.
yeah,
And he said, what did he say? He said something like, we're working on this new animated movie now, and I think the fans are really gonna love it because it's for the fans. And he was talking around what he was saying is, I know the fans don't like the movies that I've produced,
yeah,
but they will like this one. And
right.
fair enough. It was a much better. It felt more. I mean, it's like Cybertron. I mean, the whole thing takes place on Cybertron. So
Yeah, no, I do want to see it because I saw how much people liked it.
yeah,
So that.
I wish I could come over and bring a copy of it or something. But
I could, I'm
like,
sure it's on streaming or
this
whatever.
is our Sunday afternoon.
Well,
Yeah,
that would be fun, yeah.
but it's interesting to me that. with the Transformers compendium that have come out, they're doing it for G.I. Joe too.
Mhm.
And then with Skybound doing all the Energon universe stuff, all of this Transformers and G.I. Joe universe from 1985 is still here. I mean, we're still talking about these things from
Yeah,
40 years ago.
yeah. I mean that is kind of amazing because when I was a kid, I would say my favorite, absolutely my favorite show was He-Man, and I just watched my brother who's in New York. We watch things over the phone. That's just
Hmm.
keep ourselves sane. We could do it like this, but we do it over the phone. And we watched the whole second season of He-Man. Uh, I think watching watching it on the days that they originally premiered.
Oh,
Because
wow.
even though he's 10 years older than me, he would always watch it with me.
Yeah.
And he loves Filmation. Um, but it's funny that I don't think He-Man has kind of, even though they're making a new movie, I
Right.
don't think it has had that lasting impact that Transformers and G.I. Joe have had. And that might be just because of the comic book series, I think. You know,
Hmm.
uh, I think, DC had the He-Man license, and I don't think they took it as seriously. Yeah, well, I've got, oh, I don't know what I've got here. What do I have? Oh, well,
You've got
I have
something.
She-Ra. I have She-Ra, the new one. The
Oh,
new
nice.
one. That has plastic hair because
Yeah.
when I had as a kid, it had real hair and my mother cut it all off. She's a bit of a sadist.
What?
I don't know. Maybe she really liked Annie Lennox, so maybe the Eurythmics. So maybe she wanted her to look like that.
Dude, that's
I don't know.
crazy.
But
That's wild.
it has plastic hair because like, if any little boys, their mom want to cut it off, they can.
Yeah. Yeah. What's interesting about Masters of the Universe too, because there have been obviously, there have been consistent Masters of the Universe comics over the last
Yeah.
20 years or
Yeah.
so. And there was the revival series on Netflix. There was a kids series that
Right.
they did on Netflix, but it doesn't seem to have the cultural, I don't know, cachet that G.I. Joe and
I
Transformers seem to have.
Yeah, I think maybe it's those two, the original Marvel series that I think with Transformers, Bob Budiansky and Simon Furman, and then G.I. Joe with Larry Hama, who's, like
Still
he
doing
never
it too.
stopped writing it.
Yeah, it's
The
still
whole
going.
thing, they never had a transition like Transformers did. I think they were pretty decent comics.
For
Uh,
people that don't know, Larry Hama was right. So in the 1980s, they come to Marvel Comics. Marvel Comics has the comic book rights for G.I. Joe, and they bring it. Larry Hama ends up writing it, and then goes on for what is it, 255 issues or something like that. I think it's 255,
I, I,
and then continues it at Image later and does it for like another 200 and something issues, and now. He's still writing it at is it at is I'm trying to think what company has it now.
well,
Wherever
Skybound isn't doing it. I thought they were doing a G.I.
Skybound is
book in their continuity, but they were also still publishing Larry's.
there's still a Larry Hama continuity and he's still
Yeah.
writing it after all these years. And
That's
somebody
great.
asked him how much longer are you going to do this? He's like, I'm going to do it as long as I can. Frankly, I need the money. It's a job
Yeah,
and I need the
yeah,
job.
yeah.
So this man has written basically most of the G.I. Joe comic books over the last 40 years. One guy.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
And so there's
Yeah.
this crazy continuity to it too, right? Because
Well, yeah, it's
it
like if
transcends multiple companies.
and it's like it's kind of like if Claremont had been able to keep writing X-Men, I think.
Did
Uh,
you read the stuff when, but you probably not because you didn't read Marvel in the aughts and the teens. But
oh,
when he
what, the
came
X-Men
back,
Forever?
um,
Is that
no, I was thinking of when he came back to Uncanny X-Men or like 2004, 2005, and it
well,
was
the first time he came back in 2000, I read.
okay.
And I don't know why I stopped reading that. I don't know if it was because I had a financial upheaval or a
Yeah,
move. Uh, I didn't even know he came back in 2004 again until recently when I was just kind
it's
of,
it's not the same. It's
yeah, I
not
had
the
a
same.
feeling. Yeah, I texted my friend Greg. I was like, I didn't know Claremont came back in 2005 again. How was that? And he just never answered. So I assume it wasn't. And he's a huge X-Men fan,
That's
but
the appropriate answer. Just
yeah, yeah,
silence.
yeah. I mean, I still think it's better with him doing it,
Yeah.
because it's his characters really. But yeah, no, I haven't. Um, I had read a little of when he I did was it called X-Men Forever or was it called something else when he kind of did Tom Grummett drew it and it was if he had never left at X-Men Volume 2, 3. Because I remember meeting him at a convention and I've met him a few times and I absolutely love the man, but he's like the most like snobby, pretentious guy you'll ever meet, which
I
is
mean, people have told him
charming.
for years that he's the best, right? So I guess that maybe that's had
Oh,
some
well,
impact.
I think it's more like him being a theater kid and, things like
Uh,
that. And he's from Long, he's a Jew from Long Island, but he grew up in London and, it's just, but I remember I didn't know anything about it. And I saw, because they're all in the 1991 costumes, like, oh, what is this? A story set in the past? I mean, they're in the old costumes. And he's like, what do you mean by costumes or something? It's
oh
just,
Lord.
he always is like, but I love him though.
Maybe that's why he wrote so much dialogue in the pages because he was a theater kid. He was like,
Oh yeah, no, he brought a more sophisticated um slant to it. I think that was part of
yeah,
I think that's what got lost in the 90s when he left is that it was a popular comic because it was well written. I mean, maybe somebody would say, an indie comics person would say it wasn't well written or, Cerebus is better or something. But I think it was popular because it was well written.
yeah,
It appealed to maybe smarter kids or young adults. And I think that's something that really got lost in the 90s because one of the things I kind of when I talk to uh, people that are like our age, that maybe were around during like the 90s boom, they're not really readers. They're
hmm.
not, and
Well, the 90s were so driven by art, by
yeah,
the
but they're
flash of the thing.
they're not like readers of prose or
Oh
anything.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, I always kind of associated uh comic books with, I've always loved to read science fiction. I mean, I
Hmm.
think you do too. I mean, that
Yes.
science fiction has always been my thing, not horror or whatever. And just reading it, and I love like Michael Moorcock and Philip K. Dick and Harlan Ellison uh and I always thought those two things would go together. And when, uh I would go to conventions, it seems like they were connected. And I feel like that connection is really kind of gone now. I don't
Yes.
see so much, maybe because become so mainstream because of the movies and you can kind of say you're a fan of uh of comics without even reading comics.
Hmm.
And yeah, I think that's part of the thing with why X-Men was the best-selling book because it was kind of literary and maybe somebody would laugh at that, but I think that's a
No, they were very
I think that's a fair thing to say. And
he's the best there is at what he does, but what he does isn't very nice. His name is Logan. He
well,
hailing
don't
from
forget
the
about every time Storm, got caught somewhere, she'd have to be like, Goddess, this reminds me of when I was caught as a child in Kenya. Like
yeah,
we'd forget from the last issue that she was
yeah.
claustrophobic. I always had to remind. But hey, that was probably somebody's first. Every issue was somebody's first issue.
That's it. That's
And
every issue with
but
somebody's
yeah,
first issue.
I always kind of associated
And you know what, Brian? That's
comic.
why I introduce myself in every video. I'm like, "Welcome back to Serial at Midnight."
Right.
First of all, I've said welcome back, so I assume that you're returning. But then I also introduce myself, and I think it's because of the comics, because you want to every
Yeah.
issue is somebody's first issue.
Yeah. 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 But I always thought like coming into it in the late 80s and the early 90s, I thought uh, there was always a connection to literature.
Hmm.
I just feel like
It's
and
gone.
specifically science fiction, that these are kind of science fiction type worlds, even though there's elements of different genres in certain characters.
If you were reading comics in the 1980s, the 1960s, 70s, 80s, you probably had a substantial bookshelf of
Yeah,
Daw paperbacks or of science fiction novels, maybe some fantasy novels, and you were probably someone who spent time reading spent time in the worlds of imagination. but you probably and you maybe you played video games too. But I think that at some point it has been subverted to the point, and I think that the 90s had something to do with it because it was
Hmm.
so much about the collectability of the thing and
And it was just like there was like a dumb element to it. There was like
yes.
there was so much like, like there was so like the dumb teenage characters, like the Superboy. Whoa, what a
Have you ever
babe!
seen
There were so many characters like that. And
the on YouTube you can see those they would do these old videos. Stan Lee would do these have these conversations. I don't remember what it was called, but Stan Lee would talk to like Todd McFarlane or Rob Liefeld and they
those
would
are
sit in this.
videos that he sold.
Yes,
Comic
yes.
book
And so the
creators.
artist would
Yeah, those
sketch
are
and Stan would go
the
like, "Now
most the
I
funniest one
see."
is the one with Bob Kane because it's like two con men having having a conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. But what emerges when you if you watch those, like okay, so I mean I can understand the appeal of Todd McFarlane's art. I could even understand the appeal of Rob Liefeld's art. They brought something that was dynamic and like it was of its time. But when you watch these guys sketching stuff out, it seems as if it's so superficial. It is literally only about what it looks like. We're gonna put chains, Stan, we're gonna put chains on this guy because he needs chains.
And he says at one point, he's like, "I hope you know I'm getting a creator credit on this," or
Yes. Yep. Oh man.
no self-awareness.
Yeah. Yeah. But it was such a superficial time later, and I think I don't. We're back to the writers era. I think people who read comics now do
Yeah.
read them because of
Well,
writing.
I mean,
But
the thing with that era that I never got, I never liked those guys. Their artwork again kind of scared me. I think, I was still, McFarlane was a little horror oriented, or I didn't
well, it
get.
was on Spawn was in hell. I mean that's
Yeah, but no, but even like weird things with like when he did Spider-Man and Hobgoblin like mutilating a child to look like him. I
oh.
remember.
By the way, one of the issues in this trade paperback is drawn by Todd McFarlane.
Well, his early work is okay, like on Infinity Incorporated.
That's what it was. It's Infinity Inc. Yeah,
Oh, it's the crossover
the
between
crossover's in
the
there.
last crossover between the JLA and the JSA.
Yep, man, you can still trap. I'm telling you, you got
Well,
it
with the
all locked
DC
up in here.
characters, yeah, I mean, my thing is just I love the DC history. I mean, maybe it's a neurodivergent thing or something, but it's relaxing to me. I mean, it's what you were saying in that video. It's relaxing. Just sometimes that's how I get to sleep or something.
What
I just
video?
think.
What are you talking about?
Well, didn't you say where your thoughts on collecting were changing and part of the reason, but
Oh.
you realize part of the reason we collect is that we're placing things in order and it relaxes us.
Oh yeah.
Didn't
And
you
I'm
you said
I'm
that, right? I didn't imagine
I
that.
did say
If
that.
I
Yeah, as
yeah, that I should do that video, I
I've
guess.
really come to terms with how on the spectrum I am too. And I'm like, oh,
Yeah,
this is
me
how
too.
this puts it does put order in my brain. And I didn't grow up as a DC. I read Batman, I read some Superman, but I didn't grow up with DC like I grew up with Marvel.
Yeah.
And discovering I've never read these issues before, so discovering all this DC history and connecting those dots. So like I have read the Justice League, the Bwahaha stuff. I have read that era, but this butts right up against it. This is what leads directly into that. And just like connecting the histories of it. I'm like, okay, so this is post satellite era Justice League. They're in Detroit and now they're in New York. But I
Okay.
don't know this stuff. So it's
Well, yeah,
interesting
and
to
that stuff was really like that was something that was always kind of made fun of by DC fans because I think X-Men was so popular at that time that they were kind of trying to ape the X-Men with the new members with Vibe and Gypsy and Vixen.
yeah.
And I think that's kind of was seen as like a black mark on the JLA's history. But if you actually read those issues, particularly that Despero story, which is I think a 4 or 5 parter, they're not bad. They're not bad. And
No.
yeah. So you're not coming to it with the baggage that like, oh, this is the worst Justice League ever or whatever.
It can't be the worst Justice League ever because I've read some bad Justice League. Some of the newer Justice League may be some of the worst Justice League ever.
What with the Mark Wade or
Oh no, I like what Mark Wade's doing, but I'm just thinking
you
like
think you're thinking of Bendis, I bet.
just I mean, there's huge chunks of this stuff that feel so disposable to me that everything I'm gonna say everything from Final Crisis kind of gets lost in my head because I've read some of it, but I don't remember what's happening with the Justice League with the whole New 52 thing and
Well, even though I didn't like the new 52 was like one of the worst things that's ever happened to me, like up there with
terrible.
like bad breakups.
Yeah.
Um the
Hey,
new
all these stories that you love didn't happen.
Well, yeah, that was devastating to me, and I was at the time I was actually going through a really tough time in my personal life. And then the fact that like that's like the one, it's like one of the few things at the time was like going to the comic book store and getting my DC books. That then everything was all the history was wiped out was
Yeah.
just like that. That was devastating.
Well, and it was a terrible move for the comic book industry, because your comic book fans want continuity. They want the
Yeah.
history of those
Well, they
characters.
don't they don't replace they never replace it with anything better. And one thing that I really do think is that I think you should respect what the original writer the original creators came up with.
You've
Unless,
said something to me before. You said that these writers are stewards of these characters, and that has stuck with me. I don't remember if that's
I don't
exactly how
remember
you
saying
said it.
that. I hope I did. That's nice, but
My memory is that you said that you were like, these writers have a responsibility to these characters
well,
to,
I wonder if sometimes when they change so many things, and particularly DC, if that's because they're trying to um because they ripped off, Siegel and Schuster,
yeah,
Bob Kane ripped off Bill Finger. It wasn't really
yeah,
DC. And I wonder, like, definitely with the Superman stuff, I've always kind of wondered, because Siegel and Schuster's families have continued to be very litigious. I wonder if all the changes to Superman is sometimes to distance him from what Jerry and Joe did. I mean,
interesting.
one thing that always drives me crazy is like, I understand, okay, you can laugh at it or whatever, but when people make fun of the whole thing that Luthor hates Superman because when they were kids, Superboy accidentally there was an accident at his lab, and in blowing out the fire, Superboy blew out Lex's hair. And there's a little more to it in some retellings, but people always make fun of that. But Jerry Siegel wrote that story. It's like he's the creator.
Yeah,
You really telling me John Byrne knows Superman better than Jerry Siegel, the guy who came up with it?
yeah.
I sometimes just wonder if it's just to like discredit the original creators, you know?
Well, so were you gonna say that you like the New 52 Justice League? I felt like that's the
Oh
direction
yeah,
you were
no.
going
Once
in.
Jim Lee stopped drawing it, and Ivan Rice started doing it, and they did Forever Evil, and then they did Dark Side War. That was actually pretty good.
Okay.
Uh, because I at the end of the day, I really like Jeff Johns. I don't think there's ever a book he's done that I've read that I haven't enjoyed.
Yeah.
I know he's on the outs now with DC, and he probably never worked with them again.
Which
But
is a shame, because he knows more about a lot of those characters
yeah,
than most of
I
the
don't
people
know.
at that
I
company.
was watching an interview with Greg Rucka on the Word Balloon podcast the other day, and it
John
seems
Suntress.
yeah, it seems like Greg has had very bad experiences with Jeff, so there's more about him that I'm not aware of as a
Oh,
fan.
interesting.
Um, uh, but I've never not enjoyed anything he's done. So it is a shame. And I was really enjoying the Justice Society comic that he was doing recently, and I wish that had continued. Jeff Lemire is doing writing it now, and he's doing a decent job. But I don't know.
Mm.
I've always liked Jeff's style, just like when he started with Stars and Stripe. That was the first thing he did because he'd been an intern for Richard Donner before that. And
Yep.
I've just always enjoyed like everything he's done, and I wish, I wish he had kind of gotten the. I guess he was kind of like the Kevin Feige of the DC movies, but it didn't seem to work out very well.
I don't know that anybody was listening to him. I know that that was
Yeah,
kind
I
of what
don't
the
think so
job,
either.
I think that was what the job was supposed to be, but it doesn't seem like they listened to him.
Yeah. So yeah, anybody who's had a bad experience with him, I'm not disavowing their experiences,
Seems
but
like there's a lot of people out there that we like and admire that are maybe not great people in their personal
I
lives.
mean, I have no idea. I mean, I think it's stuff that comes up in work.
Yeah.
And in such a high how people act in their personal lives is a different thing. But sometimes, these high pressure situations, I'm sure,
Yeah.
um, you know, uh,
So what do you think about the new stuff going on? The DC All In is really what I want. And you're reading a lot of that stuff, aren't you?
I don't know if I'm reading a lot of it. I'm still reading Batman and Detective. I'm reading Superman that Josh Williamson is doing. I'm reading Superman Unlimited by Dan Slott, which I'm really enjoying, which is funny because I never liked any of his stuff at Marvel that I had read. So I'm very surprised. It's really a lot of
Interesting.
fun. Yeah, it's really a lot of fun. I really like that. Uh I'm reading
Did you
Justice.
read his The Thing at Marvel?
His
Dan
thing,
Slott's Thing?
his solo series, no. Is that good?
Did you read Dan Slott's Thing? Um, I thought it
I've
was
seen
fun.
the guy and I wouldn't want to read his.
Yeah. I thought it was fun. His The Thing comic was fun. I think a lot of what he did at Marvel was fun, but he has a now I didn't read he wrote like 200 issues of Spider-Man or something like that. He had this really they would go weekly with
Yeah.
Spider-Man and you can't keep up with it because there's so much of it. But I didn't read all of that, but some
Yeah,
of his
I
earlier
don't
stuff.
I don't really like unmarried, like irresponsible, like 50-year-old Spider-Man
Well, it
leaving
goes back to
something
what we were
off.
just talking about. When you've built continuity with these characters, don't just wave it away, you know?
Yeah, I actually one of the few Marvel things I was buying every month was I was reading the Nick Spencer's run on Amazing Spider-Man because it looked like he was gonna uh put Mary Jane and Peter back together again. And it was
Yeah.
it was very well done. And then the next writer, Zeb Wells, completely threw that out the window because I guess that's editorial decree that they can't be married again. So but
Hmm.
yeah, I mean the Spider-Man I like is really like the Peter that he lost Gwen Stacy and then he fell in love with Mary Jane and married her. I
Yeah.
don't what Dan Slott did with the wiping away the marriage and then him just kind of being an irresponsible guy that goes from one situationship to another is not as
Yeah.
interesting to me.
Well, and if people are listening to this conversation and they're like, when was Peter Parker married to Mary Jane?
I
For
think,
a
well, maybe
long
people don't
time.
remember. Yeah,
I mean, it was like the better part of 20 years they were together,
from
wasn't it?
1988 to what? Like, when was the storyline that J. Michael Straczynski?
2007, 2008, it was
Well,
somewhere around
yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah. I
One
was
more
working at
day.
Barnes and Noble. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, it was almost 20 years. And yeah, I mean,
They were together longer than they weren't.
right, right. And I understand that there might have been times during that period that I might have even myself been like, well, maybe Spider-Man's better off single, or it's better off he's younger, or he's more relatable, but it never works. It never
Right.
works to wipe away a lot of stuff, and they always end up adding it back. Now, I don't know if that will happen with Spider-Man, but
Eventually, I think it will
eventually, yeah,
eventually.
probably. I mean, all they have to do is get married in like a movie or something, and
Right.
they would bring it back. Um, I mean, Lois and Clark weren't married again for a little while in the New 52, and then it was just back. And I think that was because whatever you want to say about them, the whatever you want to say about Batman v Superman, they have them in a relationship in that.
Right.
You know, it's
To
it's
DC.
it's all arbitrary. It's like, oh, they're doing this in the movie that will. Like I said, the thing with Luthor and Clark being friends, that was gone for years, and then it was in Smallville. So they're like, oh, we better put that back.
Right.
I mean,
The tail should never wag the dog, but it often does with these movies. They seem to tailor the comics around whatever has happened in the movies, but the people that are watching the movies are not reading the comic books.
yeah. Well, it seems like the only thing that they do is that they'll get rid of something, and then it'll be in a movie, and they'll bring it back.
Yeah.
Something. Uh,
To DC's credit, though, the current DC universe is pretty close to what it was before the New 52.
yeah, yeah.
They've really gone back to what we want, which is what I think a status quo where these characters have history. They've
Mhm.
cleaned it up by going through all these changes. They managed to clean up a little bit and make it a little bit less messy. But they've really brought it back to here's the baseline of this character. Um, I guess they've left a lot of the kids that they brought in. Like everybody's got a second generation now. Superman's got kids, and Batman still
Well,
has. Damien and
I like Damien a lot, but I mean, the thing with John is that Brian Michael Bendis, when he wrote Superman, aged him up to adulthood, had him go into the future, grow up, and then come back to the present. And I think a lot of people would have liked to have kept him as a kid to so they could do more stories as of Clark with Clark and Lois as the father of a young kid.
yeah.
Maybe there's more storytelling opportunities there.
It's
Uh,
like when they bring a kid into a sitcom and then
yeah, yeah. The
there's
part
like
of
5
Jeremy
years
Seaver
between
will now
seasons.
be played by, and that's what they did on soap operas.
Yeah.
They would have the voiceover, the part of whoever, and they would just tell you. But yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't mind.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's definitely much. Yeah, it's back to kind of the pre-Flashpoint version of things.
Yes.
I just hate that it took like 10 years or something to get
I
there.
know.
Not 10 years, but it was a while.
I think it was more than 10 years because wasn't the New 52
Well, I guess it
2011?
really ended with Doomsday Clock, and when did that end? 2019, 2020. It was 2019 or 2020.
Okay. I'll
Um,
take your word for it.
but yeah, yeah, but it's taken a while to stabilize, and now Mark Waid is doing the new history of the DC universe, which I really recommend if you're not reading it. It's a lot of
I'm
fun.
not, I haven't read it.
Yeah, I mean, the beginning is if you read like the old history of the DC universe by Marv Wolfman and George Perez, it's kind of like text with images, but this version has all footnotes in the back. So that's really something, if you're like me, you can obsess on.
Yeah.
So he's kind of merging everything together to like if you squint that everything kind of fits together.
You know, I
That's a
bought,
lot of fun.
so I haven't read those. I will, but I bought
Only the first two are out.
okay. I bought the omnibuses for DC Who's Who
Oh,
volumes.
yeah.
And man, you could just lose. I have just lost myself in those for hours because
Yeah. It
if you
took
don't know it, you're like, who
Yeah,
is this?
the in the 90s I spent like the whole decade of the 90s getting all of those. And a lot of them were just like in 50-cent bins at conventions or at stores. And yeah, getting all of those and then all the updates because they would do four-issue updates every
Hmm.
year, I think until 88. I love those and I love all reading about like all and sometimes they only get half a page, a half page entry like the some of like the Western characters or the comedy characters that they were basically in there probably for copyright purposes, like the Wyoming Kid or something like that.
Yeah.
And I love reading about uh those characters. They're
Hmm.
not really part of the DC universe that they would ever make an impact now or in a superhero story. But it's
Right.
just it's so cool to read about, that they had all these kind of different genres, and yet they're all still kind of connected because they're
Hmm.
all published by the same company.
Yeah. At one point in time, comic books were not dominated by superheroes. There were other genres
Yeah.
of comic books.
And I mean, I understand. Well, that's a good question too, is like, um, I think superheroes kind of took over comics because you couldn't do it in movies or TV. And kind of even if you did it in animation, it was kind of watered down because of uh, standards and practices and things like that. But now we're at a point where these superhero movies are so big, and there are superhero TV shows, none of which I find very good. But so what is the value for somebody to read other than, like you can say uh people like us that have been reading this stuff or people even older than us have been reading this stuff and still are, and this is the closest thing to how you see how the character has always been because it has the weight of all this history. But now somebody doesn't have to just watch a movie. Somebody doesn't have to read a comic book to get a superhero story or
Right.
get that level of scale, you know?
Hmm.
So or they can play a video game of it. That's one thing I
Yeah.
never got into video games, so I have no it took me only until recently to realize that a lot of people know Batman as a video game character.
Hmm.
I didn't know that
You
those.
haven't played those? You haven't played the
No,
Arkham Asylum
I don't
games?
have a video game console. I never.
Brian, they're fantastic. They are so
I
good,
think they
man.
look so ugly. I think they look the way the characters look is just ugly and grimy.
They, well, they were coming out of the time when Saw was a big influence on
Yeah.
everything.
I'm a big fan of the Saw movie.
So it's like if Joker were Jigsaw or from the Saw
Right.
movies,
But they
it
just all
is
look like
definitely that theme.
dirty and grimy, and that's why I
Yes.
love the original movies because they're all kind of the original movies kind of look beautiful,
Yeah.
and it's just in a certain way. And
Well, let's transition into that because you did just see Batman and Batman
I,
Returns and
I
this new Dolby
yeah.
reissue.
Yeah, no, it was fun because it worked out really well because they were doing them back to back um on I guess it was the I think it was August 26th. It was Tim Burton's birthday, whatever, August 25th. And there's like a public transportation crisis here in Philadelphia right now. So I was like, well, I'll just go see Batman because I'm not, by the time Batman Returns is over, there's not going to be any buses or trains running. And what happened was that they actually did it again. They didn't publicize it as much, but they did it again the week after on Labor Day. So I got to see Batman Returns at an earlier time the next week. So I saw them one on August 25th and the next one on Batman Returns on September 1st, Labor Day, which was nice because I don't think I've ever watched them back to back. I don't think I'd like that. I think that would be like too much sugar or
Yeah.
something. And the what was funny was that the screening of Batman 89 was almost sold out. And I don't know if I've really gone to these Dolby Atmos screenings, but the only seats that were left were in the second row. And I was like, I was reading that that's not good to
Yeah.
be that close to the screen. But I went and I loved it because I felt like I was like in the movie. I thought I was like in Gotham City. So when I
Wow.
had the chance to see Batman Returns, which had a lot more seats, I got in the second row again because it was really immersive, and I was kind of like looking up and like, wow, look at all that stuff, all these details and stuff that I never saw. And I love the sets that were constructed and the paintings that were done for those movies. I love them, you know.
They're so stage bound, and I've heard that used as a
But I know
negative.
it's people like say that insultingly, and I don't,
That's
I
right.
don't,
They use it, and depending on who's telling that story, that's a pro or a con. But I think that the environment that they created in those sound stages feels it feels otherworldly because of what it
yeah,
is. It doesn't
yeah,
feel like Chicago. It doesn't feel
right,
like New York City or whatever. It feels completely created because it is created in all the matte
yeah.
paintings. I think those add to the atmosphere of those movies rather than take away from them.
Yeah, it really feels like you're in another place, and that really, uh, I was kind of shocked when Christopher Nolan went in the other direction because I think what people don't really realize is that that had a huge impact on the comics themselves.
Mhm.
That then all of a sudden Gotham City, well, they started using the Anton First designs for Gotham City in the comics, and they made it more of a distinctive place because I think before that it was just really just New York, and they just changed things like on the old TV show Spiffany's Jewelry Store instead of Tiffany's Jewelry Store, or Short Island Sound instead of Long Island Sound. um but then other creators started doing that too, like James Robinson and Tony Harris, their Starman series. They created a city for Starman, and his father, the previous Starman, called Opal City, that was like a very realized place. Uh, and then they put Captain Marvel in Fawcett City and the Power of Shazam comic. Like the fictional cities became a huge part of the DC universe.
Mhm.
And when Jeff Johns did Flash, he did Keystone City, and he kind of made it like Detroit, where it was like a car-based, automobile-based industry, and that's Wally worked in that. And I thought that had such a great impact because if you look at the old comics, yeah, there's Central City and Metropolis and everything, but they're really just kind of takeoffs of New York or whatever. Mostly New York because DC was in New York, so these guys were working in New York. But I felt like that Anton First version of Gotham, and then then of course Bo Welch did the second one, and Barbara Lynn did the Schumacher ones. That influenced the DC the creators of the comics to make the cities very distinctive, and I love that because it makes it becomes even more fantasy. That it's this is another world you can go to. We're not
Yeah.
just pretending this is New York and there's a guy in tights. It's like this is a whole fleshed out world.
And that's what I like about those Tim Burton movies. Not that they're perfect. I do have notes for those movies, but I wish that he would have read some of the comics. He's like Tim Burton was like, I never read any of the Batman comics. And it kind of
I think that's unfair. I mean, I'm not saying that he shouldn't have, but I think that's unfair to him. I mean, I always think of what Harlan Ellison said, the French and their stupid auteur theory. The writers are really the ones writing it. Tim Burton's not an auteur. He doesn't write, you know. So it's really the whatever your issues of it are with the screenwriter.
well, that's true. Yeah.
Um, Sam Hamm read the comics, but Warren
But
Spahn.
we've talked before, some of those Sam, and when he wrote
Yeah,
those
yeah. So
comics,
that
they're
wasn't
they're
good either.
bad.
That
They're
wasn't good either.
yeah, they're terrible.
Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, and
Well,
but
well, what I was gonna say though is that even though, so I do have notes for those Tim Burton movies as much as I love them, but what I appreciate about them is that they do create the world. They do feel artificial. They do feel like a fantasy world. They don't feel like I'm in Chicago or whatever. And to me, that's a detriment to the Nolan films and even to the Matt Reeves, the Batman, is that they're so rooted in a reality that I have a hard time believing that there's a guy
and a
walking around
boring
dressed as a
reality.
bat.
A boring reality. I mean, I watched Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises not that long ago on Blu-ray, and one thing that always really got to me is like the city. He shoots in Chicago, but the city seems so empty.
Hmm.
And maybe that's just the limitations of shooting on location, but there doesn't the Burton films, even if they're on a set, there's always people, and you feel like there's a real weight of something happening.
Yeah.
And
Have you
like
noticed how many
about
times they
like the
drive by
whole
the Monarch Theater in that first movie?
what's that?
Have you noticed how many times they drive by the
Well,
Monarch
I think what's
Theater?
funny is that the movie Footlight Frenzy that's playing when Bruce's parents is shot is still playing when the Joker has the parade at the end
It
of
had a long run.
the Um, well, I mean, as far as the Tim, one thing that I've really, I think he says it in Burton on Burton that I always liked. It may not be Burton on Burton, but he said something like, "Well, I'm not a fan of the comics, but I am a fan of classic horror films. And if you look at the old Batman comics, a lot of it is taken from
Yeah,
classic horror,
right.
and that's
The
absolutely
Joker
true."
is Conrad Veidt from
Yeah,
The Man Who
yeah.
Laughs. Yeah.
And the thing is that one thing I've been thinking about recently is that the more serious Batman, which started with Denny O'Neil and Neil Adams, where they were trying to kind of go back to like the first year of Batman without Robin after the TV show. If you look at the first year of Batman, the seriousness or the darkness, it's all horror. And that's what they were doing. And if you ever get the collection of all the Denny O'Neil, or it's not even all the Denny O'Neil because he didn't write all of them, all the Neil Adams drawn Batman stories, they're all horror stories.
Hmm.
They're all stories with the first one they did, The Secret of the Waiting Graves, which is like a picture of Dorian Gray type thing, and Man Bat and all these things, and even Ra's al Ghul or Ra's al Ghul is really like a Hammer horror villain, you know. Uh, so the darkness and seriousness of Batman to me is horror. And for some reason it got convoluted into that it's like no, it's like film noir or police procedural. And I don't think that really goes with that. And I think that's kind of with what Nolan did and now what Reeves does, it's kind of we got stuck with it. And
Hmm.
I mean, I don't know if you agree with that, but
I like the film noir thing, but well, it's so interesting because it's such a large character. It's open to multiple
Yeah,
interpretations.
yeah,
And I
sure.
think the noir thing comes into play with the Bruce Timm animated series because
Yes,
they're
yeah,
really drawing on the 40s and they're drawing,
sure.
like an Art Deco kind of a thing. They're really drawing on these
Yeah.
visual motifs that are fed, I think, by film noir with the chiaroscuro lighting and with even the Zeppelins, like the idea of the Zeppelins in there.
Sure.
It feels very rooted in the 1930s, which I guess is pre-noir. But I think that's where that
Right.
comes in. I don't know that
Well,
we really
German
see it.
Expressionism, I think, is,
Absolutely German
I
Expressionism,
always thought that was
Caligari,
more
and
the influence of on
yes.
them.
Um, but I think that Bruce Timm is probably the source of a lot of what we
Well, it's interesting. That's
uh
interesting.
that was a huge, maybe the biggest milestone for Batman post the movies.
Well, the
Post
show was just a spin-off of the movies. I think people kind of forget that. I think people malign the movies, and it's like, well, the animated series was just a spin-off of the movies.
I mean, it
I'm saying
was,
they
but
did
they
their own
tried very
thing.
deliberately not to they didn't want the Joker to be like Nicholson. They didn't want
But he was
Bruce
Jack
Wayne,
Napier.
huh?
He was Jack Napier, though. They used that origin and everything. So I mean,
Yes.
they were literally, and Penguin was, yeah, he had flippers and rode around in a duckmobile or duck car, as actually that's what it says in the credits. I noticed that
That
seeing
car.
it in Dolby Atmos, somebody calling it the duckmobile, and I think it always says that on like toys of it, but it's actually the duck car in the credits.
Interesting. How did you so I saw Batman, not this re-release, not the one you just went to, but they
Yeah,
really
there's a lot of
released it earlier. I want to say it was earlier in 2025, but it might have been 2024. Anyway, I've seen it in theaters within the last
okay,
8 months, probably. I don't know.
okay,
But I didn't see Batman. They didn't show Batman Returns. They
yeah.
did they do, I think they did Batman Forever. I think they showed Batman and then Batman
Yeah, I
Forever.
think last year, maybe it's for what they've decided is Batman Day, which I think is
Yeah.
September 20th. I think they did do Batman, Batman Forever, and
Mask of the Phantasm.
Phantasm, and maybe
Yeah.
Dark Knight too. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was just, that they were doing it for Tim's birthday, and it was the Dolby surround sound mix, and they actually even got him to record a little thing saying, "Oh, I've never seen the movies like this." And the ridiculous thing is that the people caught almost immediately. He's like, "I haven't seen these movies since, I made them." And it's like everybody's like, "Well, he saw them when he recorded the commentaries."
That's true.
you know. So
Yeah.
yeah, that he was fibbing or he doesn't remember.
Maybe he doesn't remember. He's getting old, man.
Yeah.
He's
Well, he
not
always
spring
kind of
chicken.
plays dumb with things, I notice. But
It's a part of a performance too, for
yeah,
sure.
yeah, yeah,
Well,
yeah.
so what I wanted to ask is, how did Batman Returns hold up for you?
Well, I mean, I guess it's my favorite movie of all time. I've said that many times, and it's a movie that's kind of associated with me, which I kind of don't like because it's like I've associated it too much. It's kind of
Well, if you
like
tell people it's your favorite movie, I mean,
yeah, well, it's kind of like, oh, no, somebody I'm not supposed to bring up, but Morrissey once said that he wrote so many songs about the movie Taste of Honey that he's like it's played out, like he's so associated with it. And I kind of feel like that with Batman Returns, that I kind of like all
okay,
my
did you?
friends and my relationships, I kind of enforce it on people.
Yeah.
But it's my favorite movie.
Does it remain?
It
Did
does.
you?
It does actually. And I saw it shortly before this re-release. I watched it on DVD and I was worried I wasn't going to like it anymore. And I did. I watched it for when it came out in June. I watched it on the
Mhm.
day it came out, and I still enjoy it. And I enjoy it because it kind of, and there's a lot of reasons I enjoy it. It really affects me emotionally. Uh, but I think the thing about it is it combines, because I love kind of cult movies and unusual, I love Cronenberg and Lynch and things like that. I'm not necessarily a fan of the types of movies that you would have these people do comic book movies or superhero movies. That would be like action movies, or you would get Joel Silver or something to do a superhero movie. But to me, Batman Returns is kind of like it crosses between like the two aspects of kind of like the two wolves inside me or something. It's like it's a psychological kind of horror or whatever you want to. I don't even know. It's a Michael Goth said, Tim's movies are more like a psychological drama. So it's like a psychological drama, but it's got comic book characters in it,
Hmm.
and that I really love about it. And I think that's why I love it so much because it's kind of like a crossover. Because I mean, and I know you don't like when I make fun of Nolan, but
I don't.
you see, you were like one video you added something like, "Oh, I know we got heavy with the Nolan talk." And I was like, "Oh, I didn't know he was a
I don't remember
cow."
that.
I mean, he is a sacred cow. I mean, I get it. They
I
gave.
don't. I don't think Nolan's a good director. So
Oh,
we
okay,
can.
great. Now I love you even
He's a
more.
bad
Let's get
director,
married.
and it's like nobody wants to say that Nolan's a bad director, but he is a bad director. He makes
I think his movies are empty, you know.
yes.
Um,
And now he's doing the Odyssey. Is it the Odyssey he's doing? I'm like, oh,
yeah, all the
it,
bros are gonna love that. They're already like lifting weights,
it's
waiting for it to
bizarre.
come
It is
out, just
the
watching the
Emperor.
trailer over and over again.
The Emperor has no clothes, but nobody wants to say that the Emperor has no
Yeah,
clothes.
yeah.
Anyway, you can talk about how Nolan however you want to.
Okay, okay. Well, no,
I don't
like,
even know what you're talking about. Where I said, "Hey, we got heavy." Maybe I was just worried that we were alienating people,
yeah,
but
and I don't want to alienate people because I know people like his movies, and I don't think like he's a bad person or
I
anything.
mean, look, if you
I
saw
don't think like
if you
he
saw
kids.
Batman Begins when you were 12 years old, you love Batman Begins.
That's something I understand more too. And the thing is, I like Batman Begins, and but now he says he was making that in the style of the previous movies, basically to trick us.
Right.
And he's basically said that.
And he's like, I had to transition into
Because
what
right,
I
there's like the
wanted to do.
Narrows, and it looks like Blade Runner. So there's like I remember when it came out, my partner at the time, Tara, said, "Well, it still has expressionist touches," and she loves Batman Returns. Uh, so yeah, it's like I like the first one. I mean, he could have gone far. I mean, I love Scarecrow. Scarecrow's like one of my favorite villains, and I love Cillian Murphy.
Yeah.
So the two peanut butter and the chocolate, but the way Nolan did it, it's like he barely wears the mask. There's no hallucinate. There's barely any hallucinations. He doesn't go far enough. Um,
What
that's
were you gonna say about Nolan before I sidetracked you?
oh that I don't like the type. I wouldn't really go to see the type of movies Nolan makes. But Batman Returns is the kind of like thing that I would like
Yeah.
if it wasn't a comic book movie, you
Yeah.
know. Whatever like Nolan is trying to do, like these, what is it, neo noir? I don't know what.
I don't even know.
I don't even,
I
yeah,
don't even know.
yeah,
They're kind of a mess.
yeah, yeah, and what
And
was
Oppenheimer is a montage in movie form with no
that's a good way to describe it.
it's an unwatchable mess of a movie, but people are like, this is the best thing I've ever seen. But they're
Well,
saying that
because of
because
the
everybody
hype.
else says it. So
Yeah, yeah. Well, here's something that I'd like to ask you that plays into that is
okay.
that um and man, I know you didn't like Superman, but
We
uh
can talk about Superman if you want to. I
yeah,
would be
yeah.
willing to talk about it with you.
Okay, good. But this is something that I thought you might find interesting because I was thinking a lot about it in reference to that, is that we're like the same age, right?
Yeah, we're almost
Yeah,
exactly the same
it's
age.
exactly the same age. Okay, so you remember kind of watching things like the George Reeves Superman show or the Hulk show,
Yeah.
and there'd never be any fantastic elements. There'd never be supervillains. There'd never really be much science fiction. Yeah, there were some science fiction elements in both
Well,
those shows.
that's why it was a
Or the
huge deal
Flash.
when Thor and Daredevil showed up in those Hulk movies
Yeah,
because
I
we
still
never
love the
had it
one with
before.
Daredevil. I still love the one with Daredevil. I think Bill
Yeah.
Murphy did a great job directing that. And John Rice Davies is the Kingpin. That's great. That's great
Yeah.
casting.
We hadn't seen anything like that at the time. I mean, I guess
No,
maybe there was I'm trying to think if the Fantastic
well, I
Four.
always no, well, that was '94, but
Okay.
Why I always liked the Batman show, the Adam West show, is because it had all the villains and it had the
Yeah.
Robin and the Batmobile and the Batcopter and all this stuff. All it's you don't even think about, oh, it's campy or it's a comedy or
I didn't pick up on the camp when I was a kid.
yeah, and I don't even know what camp is half the time when people say that. Um, so
I
we're
can tell you really quick if you want to take it. Camp is a deliberate attempt to sort of subvert with humor.
well, see, but that's the thing. Like, if you read the Suzanne Sontag
Contact.
notes
Yeah.
on
Yep.
camp, she
Yep.
says it's things unintentionally funny.
Yeah.
She brings up the old Flash Gordon serials, which are probably not done to be funny, as an
No,
example of
I
that.
don't agree
So
with her
there's
either.
deliberate camp, and I guess there's unintentional camp.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't agree with
And
that. Well, that's true. There's an yes, but I would say that if you want to do something, uh, there when you look at something that is unintentional, if you okay, if you're watching the Flash Gordon movies, not movies, the serials for comedy, you're coming at it from an elevated perspective. You're coming at it from a snarky perspective, looking
yeah,
down upon it. That is
okay.
not the way to watch anything, and I would disagree with that take.
And I've moved away from that
Yeah,
a huge amount.
the Mystery Science Theater
I don't even
3000
I
approach.
don't even like Mystery Science Theater anymore, which is
No,
funny because I used to.
it has ceased to serve its purpose.
Yeah. Um,
Anyway, go ahead, Batman 1966.
oh yeah, yeah. Just well, like, and then you look okay at the movies that were done, like we're talking about Batman Returns, even an example, even as much as they changed the Penguin, he's still got the trick umbrellas, right? And he's
Right.
still got he loves birds. He's got a bird in a bird cage, like all
Top hat.
yeah, the
Yeah.
comic book trope. As much as they changed them, the comic book tropes of the character are there, right?
Yeah.
And then you have Nolan kind of come along and he's doing his Batman movies kind of like it was a 70s Batman TV show like The Incredible Hulk where or the Flash show, which even
Mhm.
though it had some comic book elements, a lot of it was just a cop show.
Yeah.
Uh the Scarecrow doesn't wear the mask. He keeps taking it off and
But you know that's because they pay for
this
the
Killian
act.
Murphy's just so beautiful. I know.
Right. You pay for an actor, you use the actor.
Yeah,
You,
yeah. I mean,
yeah.
they did that with Toby and all the
Yeah,
Spider-Man.
Iron Man's constantly got his mask off. Yeah.
Yeah. But that's kind of like a because I call some of those old superhero shows like cop shows.
Uh-huh.
And it's like the Nolan movies are kind of like cop show versions of Batman.
Yeah.
And Reeves has done this too with the Riddler and the raincoat or whatever.
Yep.
And like why like we should be moving away from that. And
Right.
I feel like then we had Man of Steel, which was started out as Nolan's version of Superman because Goyer was coming up with the story as what Nolan would do with Superman, and of course
Mhm.
they didn't end up doing it. They did Dark Knight Rises, and Nolan's like, they asked Nolan, well, who should direct it? He's like, well, get the chap that did that Watchmen movie because that's a good choice.
Right.
Uh, but I always feel like the Superman stuff, and maybe it's kind of nostalgia for older people for the George Reeves show where they were limited, and like even Superman 3 is like this, where it's really just Superman and it's almost like a cop show. It's like
Hmm.
Dragnet, right?
Yeah.
And I felt this Superman movie was finally like, okay, this is whatever you want to say about the take, and I know you have problems with the take. You get to see all this science fiction stuff.
That's true. That's
And
true.
why do you think there's that we kind of went backwards with some things like Nolan and Snyder?
I
And
mean, honestly, do you want to I can give you
yeah,
an answer.
yeah.
I think after 9/11 we lost our sense of fantasy.
Oh, okay.
I
That's
think
brilliant because I never would have come up with that.
I think we
That's
went
an
to
amazing
war.
take.
I think we went to war and millions of Americans were touched by death and having people in their family become a troop that goes behind to
Yeah.
Iraq or wherever. And I think that for a generation, we wanted those Batman movies are essentially the war on terror, is
Yeah.
what it is. If you look at
Yeah.
them that way, it's Nolan tackling the war on terror with a man in a costume.
Yeah.
And he's driving a military vehicle.
Well, yeah, the movies are so those Nolan movies are so military, I feel like.
Yeah. And I think that's why. I think those were the
And
the
I just read this book. I don't know if you've seen it. It's called MCU. It's an unauthorized book on the Marvel movies. It's
hmm,
very good. I
worth
wish I
reading?
had it. What's that?
Worth reading, huh?
Worth re I think you would like it because it's, you learn a lot about the behind the scenes. But I didn't know like Dick Cheney came to like Hollywood producers and like Jack Valenti was like, we want you to put a lot of pro-military stuff in these movies after 9/11. I didn't know
I
that.
didn't know that.
And that's I think exactly what you're talking about.
Is this it?
Yep, that's it. I
Okay.
heartily recommend that.
Okay. I
Not
will
all of it is 100% interesting because it goes into all the movies, and I
yeah.
haven't seen like half of those movies, but I thought
Okay.
it was interesting just because
Well,
this has shaped the culture now, you know?
so I think the Nolan movies are about the war on terror, and I think that the Matt Reeves Batman movie is dealing with the ennui of the millennial generation and possibly Gen Z in the social media world, where we're after all of that and we're just looking for whatever our identity is. And I think that's why those people that like those movies connect with them so richly, is because they see
That's beautiful.
themselves in them when you've got literally Batman riding around listening to Nirvana and moping around, like they
Well,
see
the
themselves
whole
in
thing with
this.
him like spying on Catwoman in her underwear, I thought that was like an OnlyFans
Hey,
metaphor or
extras.
something.
Yeah, yeah. But I know, I mean, I think that our generation wants to escape. We want the fantasy. We want to live
Yeah.
in, we want to see the larger than life
Well,
archetypes.
for me, and it to me, I think it comes from like coming from a tumultuous family. What I liked about the DC characters was like there was kind of like a sense of comfort to them that
Mhm.
they, unlike the Marvel characters, like with Spider-Man, he's like a struggling college kid, and his aunt is always having fatal heart attacks before Mary Jane comes, before he marries
Yeah.
Mary Jane.
But
But like
she's
I
always
like,
okay. She always pulls through.
and she always pulls through, yeah. But like I like that. Um, Clark has like kind of the home of the Daily Planet where he has Perry, Jimmy, and Lois there,
Yeah.
and that's kind of his family.
He
And there's
has the adopted
comfort
family.
in
Right.
those scenes.
Yeah.
Then with Batman, there's the home of Bruce, Dick, and Alfred, or whoever, later.
Well, there's the whole Bat
Jason.
family. I mean, if you
Well,
want to
yeah, but
expand
just the
it.
idea of the three of them, or maybe it's Jason or Tim living in Wayne Manor, and there's that comfort that they can go
Yeah.
back to. And I don't think the Marvel characters really have. The X-Men had
No.
that with Claremont because they had their home.
Yeah.
But um, so
Found family.
there's a certain for me there's a certain warmth to the DC characters that it's not compatible with this kind of 9/11
Right.
uh ennui that you're talking about that I think you're absolutely right. And I'm looking so much at the context of the source material that I never would have picked up on that.
Uh,
I mean, I did on some level, but not the way you just phrased it, you know.
well, it's just my opinion. I mean, I don't know,
I
but
think you're
that's
right. I think you're
okay.
right. And that book, what I read in that book, even though it's about the Marvel movies, I think supports your argument.
Well, so that is something nice that I can say about Superman, which I didn't think I had anything nice to say about Superman, but I can say that it does have large science fiction settings and big
Yeah.
ideas. There is at least that.
I mean, why do you think? Because that's the thing with me with this Superman. Other than like the first two movies, I don't connect with a lot of the other media that's been done
Yeah.
because I feel like it's always kind of going back to. I didn't realize until I kind of got into the film collector world how much like the baby boomers love George Reeves and that show.
Yeah.
And I understand because there'd never been anything like that
Right.
on TV before, and I understand he had like a fatherly type of thing that was appealing. Well, Christopher Reeve is, like he says in the movie, a friend. He's not your stern dad, he's a friend.
Right. Yep.
Um,
And when he
well,
shows up, you feel like it's going to be okay.
yeah, and with George Reeves, I think I'd be afraid that he'd knock me over or something like that.
That's
Or
an interesting thing. Let's talk about that for just a second because there is that whole era of entertainment, the 1950, really early television, 1950s
Yeah.
television, and the serials and the movies, because I see the same thing with Hopalong Cassidy and Gene Autry. Like Hopalong Cassidy would espouse the code of the West. He's like, you always treat women with respect. They're parenting the
Yeah.
viewer. And so George Reeves is sort of like a father figure for
Yeah.
the 8-year-olds of 1956 or whatever it might have been. And they respond to that in a way that's like, they taught me morality. Those shows did teach morality. They were teaching
And
it.
I personally, as I've gotten older, I don't know if a TV show maybe I don't know if it really can. I think that's a responsibility of other people
Well, it
to
should be. Yeah.
I don't know if it can. I don't
Yeah.
know if it does. I mean, I
I
grew
think
up.
it might have done though at the time. It seems to have had
Okay. Okay.
well, I mean, look at the impact that it had.
Yeah, yeah.
So I don't know. It seems
Um,
like it worked, but
yeah.
is it the responsibility of a parent? Yes, of course it is. But
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
lot of those shows, there's a book that I'm slowly working my way through, and it's about Saturday morning TV, basically from the dawn of television through the 1970s. And because
Who's
they
that
look at the
by?
80s as this wasteland, which is funny, because of course that's our home base. But
Sure.
it was all great until Reagan deregulated the airwaves, and then it all went to hell. But
Well, I mean, the funny thing, but like I said, I just watched the second season of He-Man. I mean, that was a really nice show.
hey, they're
You know,
teaching morality. There's a
yeah, there was
lesson
the
at the end of
moral at
every
the end, but
episode.
the show was very gentle, and I mean, Lou Scheimer,
Yeah.
head of Filmation, and also the voice of Orko and many other characters said, they came to us with this character, and it's like He-Man is like this bullshit masculine character, and we're like, we can't do that for kids, and the show really has a gentility to it and a niceness, even though the characters are like they're designed to be like these Conan type characters. He-Man's actually really nice, and I think I responded to that as a kid, and any of these other reboots and things like that, and even the movie with Dolph, as much as I like it, he doesn't have that kindness. I don't think
Yeah.
Dolph would have been able to put that across. I don't know if any muscle guy could
No,
put
it's
that
about
across. It was
projecting
John
masculinity
Irwin, the
and
actor,
toughness. Right.
who was not
Right.
He-Man physically.
Right.
But yeah, I mean that's the kind of funny thing is that even though they did He-Man in the Masters Universe because Reagan deregulated things, it was still a moral show.
Right. Yeah. But isn't it interesting that we had the same thing in some level? We had the same thing that the
Yeah,
50s
I guess
kids had.
so.
We had
Okay,
people
so
telling us through TV what we're supposed to be doing.
right.
Don't
Well,
go
I mean,
home with
I
a
guess
stranger.
thank God somebody was, I guess. I feel like
Yeah.
so people who are watching those shows, I think it would be a better world if people were really paying attention,
Yeah. Don't mess around with power lines.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
The 5 people have died from power lines just in the last 5 minutes while we've been talking.
I know.
Um, no, but like the Superman show was like a crime show, right?
Right.
And I feel like a lot of and again, part of it's special effects, but like, the first two Superman movies, you know, we had the villains from Krypton or whatever, but then three was could have been an episode of the TV show, and then
Yeah.
four is a mess, and then Superman Returns is like a remake of the first one, and then Man of Steel is a remake of the first two. So it's like I feel like with this new one, we've finally kind of broken away from this reliance on the George Reeves template, which I feel like that's unfairly limited to, and is it do people really like seeing Superman in Dragnet, or is it just the fact that that's the special effects couldn't be done back then?
Yeah.
Because that's one of the things I liked about the movie is that I finally felt like uh we were kind of maybe in the comic book world with Superman as opposed to just a cop show. And
Well, okay, but so let me do, I will say that I don't think there's ever been a great Superman movie ever. I
even the
think that
first one, you'd say.
we love Christopher Reeve, but it's not
Don't you think
necessarily
it's
a
in the
great
first
movie.
movie with the amazing cinematography and everything?
I
You
mean,
think it's
but then look at Otis and like the
Right.
tuba every time he's walking around. I mean, that movie undercuts itself constantly.
Sure.
And Gene Hackman's approach to Lex Luthor is so campy. That is campy. That is a deliberate. They're trying to be funny with
Mhm.
Lex Luthor.
Okay.
I don't know. I think that I
I'm not
love that.
disagreeing with you
I
necessarily.
love that movie, but I don't know that it's a great movie. If you look at it in terms of screenwriting, if you look at it in terms
Right.
of construction, I think it does a great job telling the story of Superman and the
Do you
Ma and
think there
Pa
are any
Kent.
superhero movies that you would say are great movies? I hope you're not going to say The Dark Knight.
No, no. Batman '89 is a great movie, I think.
Okay. Okay.
Um, I used to think Batman Returns was my favorite, but the more that I've watched it, the more I like the first one more. So I don't know, but
I think Batman Returns has more in common with something like Videodrome than it
yeah.
does with
I mean, if you know the screenwriter was very subversive. He was trying,
and that's what I love about it.
yeah,
That's what I love about it,
yeah.
even though
Um,
I'm kind of the fan base that he's subverting, but like I said, I have two wolves inside me, so
right.
I can see both.
But see, so
But it still goes into the tropes of the characters, like I'm saying. Nolan disdains it, but Daniel Waters, when he was writing Batman Returns, he still knew he had to have the umbrella. Penguin had to
yeah,
have umbrellas that shoot
right,
flames.
right. I don't know. Like I love the Superman. I love the first Superman movie, but when I watch it, there are things that I go, I wish this wasn't here.
Yeah.
And I don't like having to feel that way. But I mean, just being honest. So I
No,
don't feel like
no,
there's a
I
great.
think it's interesting. Yeah.
I don't think there's a great Superman movie, and I had hoped
Hmm.
that James Gunn would bring the spirit of the comics, the modern comics, the comics of the last 30 years. I'm saying, let's say post-crisis Superman, because we've Superman Donner is pre-crisis Superman. It's a very faithful
But he
pre-crisis.
influenced the post-crisis Superman, and that's important to remember, even though so many things that John Byrne did were kind of like, oh, this is different than what you saw in that movie. A lot of things are very taken from that or
They are. It's
influenced by that.
yes, yes,
Um,
and I just didn't. I don't think James Gunn likes Superman. And having seen the movie, I still don't think he like. I think he might hate Superman. I really think he might hate
I don't know, I
Superman.
don't feel that way, but I,
Nobody feels that way. Every time I express
I
this
don't think you're
opinion,
the
people
only
are
one.
like, "You're crazy."
I don't think you're the only one because I mean, he's not. You just have to look at the rest of his career to know that he hasn't that's not the type of stuff he's done. So
And I
why?
don't think that's the kind of stuff he's interested in. And he said in
Oh,
an interview, see, maybe
like
this
with
was a
Burton.
case, huh?
Well, like you're saying about Tim Burton, it's him saying he doesn't read comics. It was a job for him. I mean,
It
it's a
was a
job for
job.
James Gunn, and
Yep.
the best thing you can hope is that when these people are doing their jobs, that they do something that's in line with what the source of the people that read the source material, which is a very unusual situation because it's not like doing a movie of Interview with the Vampire where that's a book. This
Right.
is like a monthly comic book done by different writers and artists and inkers and colorists for decades.
Well, I go back to the thing that I think you said that you don't remember saying, which is that the people that make these stories have a responsibility to the characters.
I
And
think they have a I think they have a responsibility to the original creators
yeah.
because a
And
lot of them were screwed over.
the reason I didn't make a
So I
video
think they
about it,
had ideas when they created these characters. I don't think they were just like, "Oh, this is a bunch of shit. Just put it out." I
right.
think that they had some thought. There was some thought behind them.
The reason I didn't make a video, I did make a video about it, but I put it behind a paywall because James Gunn said on social media that even the people who don't like the movie and who trash the movie are helping the movie. And I
Okay.
said to myself, well, I'm not going to help your movie then. And so I put it behind a paywall. But every reaction that I've seen from the movie is that, well, it's different from the Snyder movies. It's brighter, it's more hopeful than the
Well,
Snyder
I hate
movies.
that about Batman or Spider-Man too, is that it seems like everything, instead of like, what's the best way we can make a new Spider-Man or Batman movie? It's like, well, every movie is a reaction to the last one, or the last director's take.
Yep.
And it's just that gets exhausting after a while. I hate to use the
Yeah.
word exhausting, but it gets old after a while. It's like, don't you just want to see
Yeah.
a good movie with these characters and not everything have to be a reaction? I mean,
Well, and
imagine if like a
so
musical artist, every album was a reaction to their last album, or
right.
it's
I mean,
just
that's human nature, I suppose, to
yeah,
compare it like
yeah.
that. But I'm coming from it as I love Superman as a character, and I love him more as I get older. And I just wanted to see the Superman that I've been reading for most of my life reflected on the page, and I don't feel like I did. And I go in relatively optimistically. I've seen the
And
trailer.
okay.
The trailer moved me with the use of the music and the idea that it's going to be hopeful and that there's going to be people that he saves. And uh, it seemed as if, I mean, there's the big blue Boy Scout trope of Superman that I don't think we've ever really gotten on screen. And
No, because I always felt Christopher Reeve had a certain, I felt like he was kind of laughing at. Like
he's
when he
winking.
says, statistically speaking, it's a airline. What is it? Where he says airline travel is still the safest way to fly. If you look while he's walking away, he's like laughing. He's like snickering to himself.
He's
It's like he's
constantly breaking the
forced.
fourth wall
He's
too.
yeah. He's for. It's like he's forced to do this because he's Superman.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like where he says, I'm here to fight for truth, justice, and the American way. I feel like he knows that that's silly. And, Lois says you're going to take on everybody in Congress. I think he knows. And it's like, well, my dad has given me this job, and I feel like his Clark Kent is kind of like a little separate from it. And I think that's part of why he does give up his powers, because uh, there's a part of him that's a little separate from it. So I don't. Uh, I think that was put in on purpose,
Yeah.
whether that was Tom Mankiewicz or I don't know, but there's a little, there's a little snarkiness to it, I think, or there's a little bit of it of being a burden, you know,
There's an irony. Yeah.
an
There's like
irony, an irony,
a detachment
a
is what I feel.
detachment. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't know. So I was just hoping that this would be the Superman movie that really captures the spirit
But
of the comics.
okay, but you didn't feel that this take on the character or the way the character behaves in the film. I'm not talking about any of the other characters in the movie. You didn't think that was kind of he wasn't heartfelt. You didn't think
I thought that James Gunn made fun of Superman for 2 hours. I
like
think he hates Superman.
what's an example? And I'm not
Okay, so the movie starts with Superman getting beaten, and you could constructually look at this and look at it from a construction perspective and say, well, we've got to show that he's got some weakness. We've got to show that he's vulnerable,
okay.
but he loses most of his fights in the movie.
Hmm.
One of my Patreon supporters said it like this, and this is the most accurate way I've seen it. The movie begins with Superman getting his butt kicked, and it ends with him being called a bitch, and it is consistent in that theming throughout the entire movie.
Okay.
The movie is not on Superman's side, and for all the talk of hope, there's a lot of talk of hope in the movie, but it doesn't actually exhibit hope. It is consistently deconstructing that hope. It is it is so cynically constructed to me. I detect so much disdain and cynicism in the movie. From the moment, okay, the trailer,
We have to watch it together. We
maybe
have
so.
to live stream because I really didn't pick this up. And
Well,
maybe I didn't sleep enough the
this
night
might be
before. I
this
don't
the
know.
neurodivergent superpower of being able to read
Well, I've
people
got it
that
too. I've got it too. So I would
when
never
you
come
walk
down
into a
on it.
room and the energy's wrong, you ever walk into a room and you're like, these people are nasty.
Yeah.
Um, so I go in relatively open to the experience because I've seen the trailers and I'm like, I think it's going to be pretty good. And I've seen the trailer where he's whistling for Crypto and Crypto comes and he like takes him to get help, but immediately it subverts that because Crypto is like jumping all over him and hurting him
Right.
more. And I'm like, okay, I don't like this. This is not a good
Okay.
use of
Well,
Crypto.
that plays into something I want to ask you later, but keep going.
Okay. The use I don't like I like the idea that we don't have to do the whole secret identity thing with Lois and Clark, like she already knows. I that's okay, that's good, but they bicker for the entire movie. There's no baseline of like these people care about each other and they want to be around each other. No, they just fight for the whole movie. And this whole idea that like, is
Don't you think
Superman
there have been a
punk
lot of
rock?
takes where they have that kind of relationship, though?
What's that?
don't you think there've been a lot of takes where they have that kind of relationship, or never to that
Um,
extent, or
I don't. What's an example of the from the comics of that? I can't think of any in the last 30 years.
yeah, you're probably right. You're probably right.
Lois loves Clark more than anything on in the planet. Like she is
Yeah, but
devoted
I
to
think
him.
she's never, at least since they've been married, I don't think she holds back in any kind of criticism of him. And there've certainly been times, uh,
Sure.
you know, it's not,
I don't even
well, it's
feel
not,
like they
they're not
like
like
each
Mr.
other.
Miracle and Big Barda or anything like that. They're not, you know, I feel because it's always been Lois, uh, the Golden Age Lois was really a ball buster to Clark and Superman to an
Oh, for sure.
extent. So
Yeah.
I think there's a little bit of that brought into their marriage. Um, Maybe not a lot, but I don't think it's quite that lovey-dovey. That
Oh,
didn't
it's
bother
not.
me. I agree. I agree. I get what you're saying. I get what you're
Did
saying.
you watch any of Superman and Lois
Well,
on
it's
TV?
funny you mentioned that because I figured you mentioned that. I got to see the last season because
Mhm.
I just finally had the time.
Yeah.
I have,
That's the season I haven't seen, so I can't even comment
but
on
I
it
thought
really.
some of it, like this movie, I thought some of it was very heartfelt. Some of
The
it
relationship between Lois and Clark in that
that
show
you
is the
prefer.
one I think you should
Okay.
aspire to.
Yeah. Okay.
That
Fair
is
enough.
Lois and that is a very accurate representation, in my opinion, of Lois and
Okay.
Clark of the last of their married
Yeah.
comics lifespan,
And also
which
they were
again was from the 90s. It's not like this is a new thing. They've been married for a long
right.
time.
Right. No. Yeah. No. Even though we had that disruption with the new 52.
Right. And
True.
people are going to say, but they're not married in the movie. I know they're not married in the movie, but I don't even think they like each other in the movie. It's almost like they're like, well, you're here and I'm here. So I just don't.
Well, do you think that changed by the end when the Lois kind of
No,
admitted? No, you don't think that? Okay.
no. I think it had lip service to the thing, but the actions are different. What the movie says and what the movie does are two different things to me. And I think part of the problem is
I
that
get that.
James Gunn is a sad, broken man. And I'm not trying to be mean about it, but like I've listened to podcasts, like he's like, I don't know what love is. I didn't know what love was until I met my wife. And this was like 3 years ago. And he said, his whole life he's been mistrustful of people. He's been mistrustful of authority. And somehow this guy ended up with the keys to the entire DC cinematic universe. And I
I
see
mean,
the
I
subversion in
wouldn't
everything he
describe
does.
myself that differently. I wouldn't describe myself that differently, and I love Superman. So I
Well,
mean,
and I wouldn't describe myself that differently either, to be honest
I
with
had a
you.
feeling you were going to say that.
But I'm also not leading. I'm not
But do you
spearheading
think
an entire
somebody
team.
has to be like a true believer to do something like this? I mean,
Well,
do you think they have to be preaching at the pulpit, or do you think they can do a good job?
that's the question. Is I'm too close? Clearly, I'm too close to it.
No,
Clearly.
I don't think it's a look. If we don't care about it, who's going to care about it?
Well, I would say that I have standards that are impossible to reach, but those standards are reached every month in the comics. I rarely read a comic and I'm like, this isn't Superman, but I
Right.
sure did
That's
feel
a
that
good
watching the
point.
movie.
That's a good point. Okay.
I mean, I look at what Mark Waid writes. I mean, the Mark Waid, the Action Comics run where Superman goes into the Phantom Zone. Did you read that? Where he
I
meets up with
didn't actually
Mon-El.
because it was coming out every week.
It was weekly. Yeah. Well, I was
Yeah,
reading it on
so
the app.
that was a lot, but yeah, no, it was smart.
Yeah, I read it on
Eventually,
the
I
app,
want to
so it
read it, maybe the trade.
cost me 9.99 to read it
Yeah,
weekly.
yeah.
But um,
It's 4.99 a week because there was a Supergirl backup.
I know, and the Supergirl backup was trash too.
I had a feeling.
It
I
was
had a
not
feeling.
good.
That's really why I didn't buy it.
That's another problem. That's another one of my problems with this movie too, is the way that it treats Supergirl. I hated the way, and of course he's
She
doing
was a
this so that
drunken
he can
frat girl.
build, huh?
And she was a drunken frat girl for humor. So
Yes.
a quick
And of
bit of
course,
humor.
this is
Whether or
so he
not
can
that's how the
build that
movie will
character
be, I don't
towards
know.
being complete over the next 10 years, I guess. The Justice Gang, I hate. Of course, they are there because he wants to build a Justice League. He's
Okay.
giving
Well,
them a starting point.
that's okay. That I wanted to mention something before I said this. But I will bring this up. You said the thing with crypto, where he's just basically, I guess, a real dog, where he's, he's well, not all dogs act like that. I've never had a dog, but that, he's acting like a certain type of real dog, as opposed to like if you read the old Silver Age comics, Crypto's an intelligent dog, like Hot
Crypto's
Dog
a hero,
Archie,
man.
where he's like, he's got the thought balloons that say,
Yeah.
"Gosh, I want to help my master" or whatever.
And by the way, there's a new DC Finest collection with a lot of those Crypto
Yeah, no, I
stories.
know. I want all of those.
Yeah,
I want all of those. I want to be a millionaire and just have all the DC Finest.
I know.
No other reason. Um, and then we've kind of, when Jeff Loeb brought Crypto back in the 2000s, they kind of played into the humor of him being more like a real dog. And what if a real dog had these powers? I like the old Crypto that has the thought balloons where he speaks in perfect
Well, and
English.
of course, that doesn't translate to a movie. That's too
Yeah,
ridiculous
okay.
for a
And that's
movie.
what I wanted to bring up. So there's a lot of humor in this movie with Crypto. Now, those other characters that are in the film, I would say three of those characters are my some of my all-time favorite characters in the DC
Mr.
universe. Guy
Terrific.
Gardner would not be. I never liked Guy Gardner because when I
He's a
started,
terrible human being in
he's
the
a terrible
comics.
human being. He can be funny, but as a kid, I didn't understand why he was in the Justice League and not Hal Jordan, who I had my action figure of. So
Right.
I'll always resent Guy Gardner. I didn't. He's Mo. Like I don't understand. I didn't understand the haircut.
I think Guy Gardner exists so that
To hate,
the
I guess.
to what?
Hate, I guess, or to laugh
Yeah,
at.
I think he's
Yeah.
like, well, we don't want to be like him.
Right. I mean, Jeff Johns has made him into a more likable character where he's just kind
He's
of
made him a whole
he's an
person.
affable jock, I would say now.
Yeah.
But Mr. Terrific and Metamorpho and absolutely the Kendra Saunders Hawk Girl. Kendra
Yeah.
is probably my second favorite
How did these characters
character
translate to
after
screen for
Jack
you?
Knight. Okay. Well, there's a okay. There's a lot of humor used in introducing these characters. And I have to wonder, is this because that's the only way, kind of like with the Batman TV show and kind of like the original Batman movies or even the original Superman movies, is the only way people can accept these characters? Because like Mr. Terrific has a very tragic backstory.
Yeah.
And there's nothing in this movie that says he doesn't have that. I'm going to guess that he probably does have the same backstory. But he's played in a very not that he himself is humorous, but you're meant to laugh at.
He's too cool for the movie. He's there, but he's like, hey, whatever.
But it's almost like he's a parody of something,
Yes.
and
Yes.
you're laughing at that. And is the only way you can have a character like him that has a jacket that says fair play on it, which actually has some meaning in the comics because it belongs to the original Mr. Terrific, is the only way you can have these characters in a movie that's going to be seen by so many eyes is to have humor like the Batman TV show had, like the Schumacher Batman or whatever. Is that the only way? Is that
I,
something we just have to accept?
no.
The only other version, like, is it only a funny version or a Nolan version where they're not even heroes and villains? They don't, Scarecrow doesn't wear a mask and
Only in a James Gunn movie. That's my answer to that. Even a Zack Snyder movie. These are extreme takes for these characters, and
but do
they're
you
not
think if
reflective
it
of the
didn't
core of
have
the
all that
characters.
humor, if it didn't have all that humor and all these characters and all these concepts and crypto was in the movie, do you think people would be like, oh, the regular people that you and I can't relate to, really? I think, are they going to be like, oh, this is ridiculous. This is, I can't, this is for kids.
I think no, I think that this is a very specific DC problem where DC is embarrassed of their characters. DC Cinematic, where Warner Brothers is embarrassed of the DC characters, so it has to continually make fun of them or mock them or devalue them or try to change who those characters are. Marvel, even though I don't love all of those movies, you just read the MCU book. Captain America is a straightforward. They do not make fun of Captain America, and he's wearing the full like
The first one.
American flag on his
The
head and
first
all
one,
this
you
stuff.
mean.
Huh?
The first one, you mean. Or just his portrayal in
No, in any Marvel movie where Captain America is in it, they are not. He is not there for comedic effect. They're not like, look at this old man. There might be the occasional joke about the 40s or something like that, but they're
there's
not.
a little bit of that. I mean,
Is there?
I mean, there's the stupid thing in Age of Ultron where he's like, "Oh, don't swear," which he never acts like that in the
Oh,
comic.
that's fair enough.
I
That's fair
mean,
enough.
and then they had the thing, and I don't know if they cut it out in Endgame, where like he's telling the story of how he went into the ice and Rhodey's like, well, why didn't you just jump out? And he's like, oh, I didn't think of that. I think they cut that out because it
Yeah,
makes
that's
him look like
stupid.
an idiot. Yeah.
I don't know. I
But you're
perceive
right.
that
In general, Chris's take on Captain America and how it's written is a very respectful version.
in general, I believe that
And
Warner
that's why people
Brothers,
like him, I think,
yeah,
because they didn't know what Captain America was until they saw those movies. They thought it was just some bullshit thing,
yeah,
jingoistic, patriotic thing.
I think you're right. Um, but I do perceive that Warner Brothers is embarrassed of these characters, which is why we got Jason Momoa as Aquaman instead of a much
Well, I
more,
think all that casting was him trolling people. I think that was all him trolling people. All of
yeah,
that. All except maybe the guy who played Cyborg. I don't want to attack him because I think he'd only done like off-Broadway plays.
yeah.
But all those that casting that he did, I think is just trolling people.
This ain't your daddy's Aquaman.
Well, yeah, and I think, I just think it's all, yeah. I mean, it's just all troll, just get some woman from the Fast and the Furious that can't act to play Wonder Woman because she's hot.
Right.
I
Yeah.
mean, and get the guy from We Need to Talk About Kevin to play the Flash because, yeah, that sounds
So
just
did you see, and it's okay if you didn't, but did you see Fantastic Four, the new
I did
Fantastic?
see that's the thing. I did see Fantastic Four, and I
And you
thought,
probably didn't like it as much as I did, right?
I mean, I thought there was something kind of boring about it. And
Mm, that hurts my heart,
the
man.
thing about it, um,
The
it just
Dan Slots thing.
uh, it seemed like to me it was almost like, and it would be funny if they did something like this, but it almost seemed to me like a fantasy of like what like it was an alternate reality where like their lives were perfect. Like they're in this version of the 60s that's so advanced and so perfect and the four of them don't argue and Ben doesn't blame
But
Reed.
they do. They do
Did
argue.
they? I mean, what
Yes.
they argued about Galactus, right? But not that I don't know.
Well, the whole central thesis of the plot is that Reed is willing to give up their child, or he's not willing to give him up, but he thought about giving him up, and that creates this rift in the family.
But there wasn't the kind of tension between them that you see so much in the comics. That
That's
was
true.
philosophical debaters, and
And
that's
I like
pretty
that
extreme
because I feel like we've done that to death already. This is the
in the other
fifth
movies.
Fantastic Four movie, and I was so grateful that we didn't have to do the like, oh, Ben's upset that he's turned into Rock.
Okay, all right. I mean,
And
I can get that.
I thought, but see, here's what I was gonna say is
But
because
this was
I
to me marketed as this was going to be the definitive Fantastic Four, and I watched the 2005 movie shortly before I saw it, and I thought this didn't. Okay, I know this is not a great movie. It's trashy. It's Tim's story, but there's some things that got right,
yeah,
I thought.
yeah,
And
it gets the relationships right.
I like the Thing and Human Torch and that a lot better than in this movie. Um,
Well, the reason I ask you that is because I realize I feel like I'm way out on a limb here with my opinion, but I did not care for Superman and I loved Fantastic Four and I would have given the Fantastic Four approach to Superman, that
Superman. Okay.
reverential,
Okay.
uh slavishly,
I don't think it's
like
a
a
binary thing though. I don't know if
well,
maybe it is.
I,
Yeah.
in my mind it is, but it might not
Oh,
be
yeah,
in
yeah,
real
no,
life.
no.
But see, a lot more people like Superman than like the Fantastic Four movie. So what I would prefer is not necessarily commercial. I want a thing that has little appeal. It seems not that the movie's done poorly, not that Fantastic Four's done well, but not as well
I read
as
so many different things online that I don't even know how either movie did. I mean, was either I guess Superman was a bigger success, but then you'll read
yeah,
something else where it'll say no, Fantastic Four was a success, and it's so
yeah,
confusing. And everything is driven by an agenda.
of course.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
you don't even know what to trust with this stuff.
I what I loved about Fantastic Four that I did not love about Superman is it really feels like a love letter to those Jack Kirby and Stan Lee comics. Not yeah, so you don't agree, but I that's like it is
Well, it just
so
seemed
much
like a
of that thing
fantasy.
that people complain about it being too much of a love letter.
No, it's just it felt like there was a like the whole thing with Sue, all the people who came with to the wasn't the Baxter Building, it was the Future Foundation.
Right.
Comes to there with the pitchforks to, when they find out that they don't want to give up Franklin, and she gives them this speech, and they're just like, "Oh, okay," and just go home. That
Because it's a comic book world.
But that doesn't sound like a Lee Kirby world, because the one thing that's consistent in those Silver Age comics is that normal people will turn on them at the drop of a hat.
But
Maybe
they
in
did turn on them.
DC world, I don't think they would just be I don't think they would just be kowtowed by a speech. It just seemed like they were worshipped as gods in that world. And it almost seemed like, to me, this is like, because like Franklin can create alternate worlds, right? We've seen him do
Right.
that in the comics.
Right.
Maybe this is Franklin's fantasy of what his family should be and how they should be treated.
Hmm.
And it just that's how I looked at it. And
Yeah.
um
It's an aesthetic thing. See, I would take that all day, every day. I loved it.
okay.
I felt so safe and warm in that environment.
All right, all right.
It did. I just felt like everything was gonna. I want Superman to make me feel like everything's gonna be okay, and he didn't, and the Fantastic Four did.
Yeah.
So that's
I
the
don't
best.
know. I feel like the Fantastic Four has more rough edges that were missing from this. And I feel like maybe Disney can't have those rough edges of the Marvel characters. And maybe they
Like,
never really have.
what
Maybe
rough edges would you?
it's not compatible with their company line.
What rough edges would you like to see?
I mean, there was no rivalry between Ben and Johnny, right? There was no Ben wasn't a bitter character at all. He just seemed
No.
to be okay with being the thing. And
Well,
I
he
think
seems sad, but they didn't
he seemed
really.
sad, but like in a Prozac way, not in I miss kind of I mean, that's tough for me, because isn't that one character that's really been always consistent over animation and films, that he's this Brooklyn guy, he's kind of got that voice, and a way of acting, and this version didn't have that at all. And maybe, okay, that's a different take,
I think he had it a little bit.
but I don't know. He seemed very kind of
I wonder if you did
he's
yourself a
cooking and soft
disservice.
spoken and everything. I
I
just
wonder if you did. Well, but the thing. Oh, okay. I mean,
maybe I didn't. Maybe that was after I stopped reading.
I'll tell you what. The thing of the Mark Miller run is definitely kind of a softer,
Yeah.
gentler
That I
thing.
do remember, because I read some of those when I was working at Barnes and Noble. We had the
Yeah.
trades of them. Yeah,
Do you think you did yourself a disservice by watching the Fox version so closely to the new Marvel version?
maybe,
I don't
maybe.
know.
I mean, I specifically didn't do that with Superman. I wasn't like that. To me, is kind of a mistake whenever they promoted the other Superman movies. Is then they have to have like a documentary on TV about, oh, there
Yeah.
was a Superman radio show and Kellogg's, and there was a TV show and a Broadway play. It's like, I'm ready for something different, that's something
Yeah.
that breaks with tradition, because I think that tradition is very much based on limitations.
Well, hold on a second. So, did you like the way that they treat Mr. Terrific and Hawk Girl and who was the other one?
Metamorpho,
Metamorph.
the
Metamorpho
old man.
cries for half of his screen time.
What's that?
Metamorpho just cries for half of his
Well,
screen
yeah, and
time.
that's the weird thing, because he is generally presented like Ben Grimm is traditionally
Right.
presented, like a tough guy
He's a
from
tough guy.
Brooklyn, the 1950s.
Yeah.
A
I
character
would
type that
say
I'm not
that's
sure
not
existed.
What we saw on screen is not Metamorpho.
Yeah, yeah. But I
It's
also
a character called Metamorpho.
But I also wonder if that characterization, like what maybe I'm saying about the Thing, is that an outdated characterization? You
Yeah,
know,
maybe so. Well, did you
uh,
like the characterization in the new movie? I didn't.
I like Anthony Gaffigan. He's a good, I like his presence, but yeah, he seemed like more of just like a regular guy.
Yeah,
Uh,
what do you think about Hawk Girl screaming like a hawk as she flies through the air?
well, I think she captured her sarcasm and her kind of anger very well. Certainly better than the actress that played her on the CW show. But I was
I
very,
forgot about that.
which was those, I don't know, those actors are so bad. I'm sorry if anybody loves.
Those are soap versions of those characters, soap opera
I
versions
don't
almost.
even know if they're good as soap operas, because I've watched a lot of soap operas, and I don't
Yeah.
know. Uh, I didn't like her killing the guy at the end. That to me was as bad as like Superman killing Zod. And I
And
was
how
just
about,
like,
okay, this really bothered me too, Brian, because in the trailer, the
that's
kid
my
is like,
biggest problem with the
Superman.
movie, by the way. If I,
What?
That's my biggest problem with the movie. If I would say I had three big issues and two of them I've let go of, but the one I can't let go of is that. And
The
somebody might
killing?
say I have to reread the whole Jeff Johns Hawkman run. Maybe Kendrick did kill somebody at some point. I don't remember ever doing that.
Not like, even if she had, it wouldn't
But
have been
it's like
like,
an international incident or something that
yes.
he did. Now,
What I was
granted,
so
maybe
bothered.
he fell in a mattress factory or something. Maybe he didn't really die because we didn't.
How about, so in the trailer, they've got that little boy who's like, Superman, come save us, Superman.
Yeah.
Superman doesn't come save them. The
Yes.
Justice Gang
Yeah.
goes to
Yeah.
save them, and
Yeah.
Guy Gardner is turning over tanks with his middle finger, with the
He
Green
must be
Lantern
from
middle finger.
Philadelphia in this universe. Yeah.
What?
He must be from Philadelphia in this universe because
I just thought it was so cynical. It was
yeah.
so cynical to me. And like you led me to believe, like, why, okay, Superman from a story perspective, and this is one of my problems with the movies. I think it's a poorly written movie. It doesn't flow, it doesn't make sense. Scenes
Well,
chop up
it's
against each
one
other.
thing after another. It's one thing after another. I don't think
Yes.
there's very little time for it to breathe.
It
It just
feels like
goes
it was a
on.
3 hour movie or a 4 hour movie
Right.
that's been cut heavily.
Yeah.
It's very choppy. Um, the movie promises this hope. This movie promises that Superman is going to this we can rely on Superman because he will come to take care of us. He is the in the movie's terminology, he's the immigrant who believes in what he stands for and he's going to take a stand for what he thinks is right. And in then the movie, he doesn't even come to save these people. The Justice Gang does and incites violence.
Right.
And I'm like, this is the opposite of what you just told me that we should expect from this thing. It's subverting. This is what I'm saying. It subverts what it says it wants to do.
Well, what this reminds me of something that I had read that I haven't seen get a lot of traction. That when Nolan was developing Batman, he talked to Paul Levitz, the head of DC, about
Yeah.
Batman,
The
and
Boy Wonder.
the boy. wa-
Paul Levitz, for people that don't know, was writing comics as a teenager.
I think you're confusing him with Jim Shooter, but Paul started very young.
No, Paul Levitz. How
Well,
I'm
they
gonna
both wrote the Legion. I think you're
I'm gonna Google when Paul Levitz started writing.
okay. It might have been a well. What was it with the junior woodchucks that worked at DC?
Anyway,
He
go
should have
ahead.
been working at Gold Key, I guess.
Anyway, go. I'll look it up while
Okay.
you. So he
So,
goes to Paul Levitz.
and it's fine. I mean, a lot of them started as teenagers. Um, but I guess Paul Levitz, he asked Paul Levitz, what's your important things about Batman, right? And Paul
Paul
Levitz,
Levitz was 16 years old when he
so you
began working
got,
for DC Comics.
but the whole thing of like Jim Shooter started writing at like 12 or something, and
Yeah, he was a child.
Mort Weisner, who was the Superman editor, was basically berating and abusing the poor kid over the
Yeah,
phone.
yeah,
Rest in peace, Jim.
yeah. What a man. What an interesting
Yeah,
guy.
I couldn't do that as a kid, from everything I've read about Mort Weisner. But Paul Levitz had said, well, he doesn't kill. And Christopher Nolan was shocked by that. Like he was shocked that Batman, like, oh, he's an action hero and he doesn't kill. Like, and all
Because
the,
I've never read any comics, you see,
yeah.
Paul. I've never touched. I don't like comics. I think they're a bit
Yeah.
below me.
So he turned that into one of his weaknesses in that movie, in
Yeah.
those movies. It's his weakness
What a
that he
guy.
won't kill the Joker.
Yeah.
It's not his strength. So this is kind of what you're saying about Gunn's take on Superman. Just like Nolan looks at Batman's unwillingness to kill as a weakness, you're saying that Gunn sees Superman's hopefulness as a weakness, basically.
I believe that he does, and I
It's a
believe that the movie
delusion.
enforces that.
Yeah, yeah,
And I maybe it's because I know too much. Maybe it's because I've heard him in interviews, and I even for this movie, he said, I didn't have a story for Superman. When they asked me to write Superman, I thought, I can't do that. I
yeah.
don't know the character enough to write a story for it. And he's like, I think I finally found a hook for it. And I'm not sure what the hook was because I've seen the movie and I'm like, what was your hook? But um, I think the hook is maybe that Superman is so square that he's cool,
Yeah.
which I hate. I hate that take. I hate the whole conversation about whether he's punk rock or not. I'm like, well, he's not, and he doesn't need to be. That's not a measure of if he's a value, if he has value as
Well,
a person or a character.
I mean, one of the things I guess that I have thought that maybe is a positive is that I keep seeing people post that as a meme, that quote that maybe kindness is the real punk rock. And I
Yeah.
cringe every time I see it, but I also think, is it really such a bad thing if people are believing that?
It's not a bad thing if people believe it, but I don't think James Gunn believes it, and that's my
Yeah.
problem.
Because
And
I
if you look
really,
at James Gunn as a human being and what he's done on social media, he
yeah,
clearly doesn't believe it. He's
yeah,
not a kind man. He's a terrible man.
yeah. And because one thing I've realized is like the source of all like kind of the modern DC films is The Dark Knight, right? And The Dark Knight is really popular. It took me a long time to realize this. It's kind of scary. People like the Joker, like Heath's version of the Joker, and they
Yep.
agree with him. They agree with his point of view.
Yeah.
At least I've met a lot of people that have. And
And I think maybe Nolan agrees with that point of view too.
I don't know about that because I feel like then he did in the next one, he did kind of like this very cynical thing with like making Occupy Wall Street just uh like a scam pulled
Yeah.
by Bain, right? So
Yeah.
I don't know what
It's hard to know.
I maybe he's just somebody that takes advantage of whatever's in the air.
Yeah,
That
maybe
might be
so.
very likely. But uh you know,
The Dark Knight being the source for
yeah, yeah, yeah. And so much of that cynicism, I think, has seeped into the Snyder stuff, and I really think, and then doing a Joker movie. So I'm kind of like, if people are going around saying kindness is the new punk rock, it's better than
it. Yeah.
kind of them agreeing with being the main their main point of identification being.
They love Lex Luthor in the movie. They're like, he's my hero. He's
Right, right.
yeah,
Because
yeah.
it's like the we believe in a what is it? We live in a society joke, or that's really up until this point. That's the DC character that
Yeah. Boy, that's such a
the
low bar, Brian. That's a low bar, man.
I
But you're
agree.
probably right.
The
Kind of
only other thing I could say is I think that's so funny because I've spent a lot of time with punk rock people, and if there's one thing they hate, it's Superman. So
yeah.
I was thinking today about my first girlfriend, Erica. We went to see The Limey. And she
Oh,
was
that's a good movie.
she was like, "Who's the guy in this movie?" And I'm like, "Oh, Terrence," because remember that was his comeback movie, and
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh, that's Terrence Stamp. You know, he played General Zod in Superman 2." And she was just like, "I hate Superman."
I hate everything he represents.
So yeah,
Ice cream in America.
yeah, puppies, balloons.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh
So I
man.
find that funny, but yeah, no, it is a it is a low bar to
But
jump.
I don't know that you're wrong about that assessment though,
It
because I
took me a
think that
long
this is
time
the
to
first
realize it.
I think this is the first movie in a long time from DC that's like, hey, kindness is kindness, right? Like it does seem,
Yeah,
yeah.
kindness. That's a thing,
Hey,
right?
being a good person is pretty swell.
Yeah. And like I said, my initial experiences with the DC characters was everything was like, because like Super Friends, you know, Batman and
Of
Robin would stop
course.
on the street and be like, make sure to look both ways before you cross the street, or Aquaman
Right.
would help some kid that was drowning, or, you know. So it's kind of weird that we went into that whole really. I remember somebody I worked with saying, because remember the Super Sons book with Damien and John that Peter Tomasi
Yeah.
did. They were like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I got the Super Sons #1. It was so fun and lighthearted. That was weird because it's DC." And I was just like, but
They
of
don't
course
know.
they thought of
Yeah.
Snyder and Nolan. So,
Yeah, so
it-
like I'm reading this Justice League book and
hmm.
Superman's just randomly like there's a scene where they summon well you'll know because you know the
Oh,
story.
200, 250?
Yeah, exactly. 250 where they put the call out to come and Superman is
I
putting
know
a
exactly what
fire
you're talking.
out with a he's like got the big like water tower thing, and he's putting a fire out, and I think it's in another country. It's like Ghana or something like that. I'm like, yeah, that's what he does. He spends his time going around and putting out fire, like literal and
Yeah,
metaphorical fires.
yeah.
He spends his time saving people. It also, but can I say this? It also bothered me in the movie when there's the big monster thing
Oh, tell
that
me whatever you want.
the
You know,
Justice Gang
yeah.
kills the monster, and people are like, it's so Silver Age. I'm like, yeah, but Superman would not have allowed the monster to be killed by his
Well,
friend.
it does bother me that they. I mean, I don't know. I mean, Mr. Terrific doesn't kill people, that's for sure.
Right.
That.
Most of these heroes do not kill people, let's be honest.
Yeah, and some Snyder head is going to say, well, that's just because of the comics code, and it's like. But really think about that. I mean, there's only so far you can go into a fictional world where people are, okay, we've got self-appointed vigilantes. We're accepting that, but now we got to accept that they kill. I mean, it's more
Well,
than
these are the same people
comics
that saw
code.
the Joker movie, the one with Joaquin Phoenix, and thought that it was a hero's journey and not a man descending into madness, like not a man being broken by society. I
Well,
mean, these are people that look at Travis Bickle in Taxi Driver and go like, "Oh, I want to be like him." This is
and one of
crazy
the
talk.
scariest things is I've realized in my life that I've spent a lot of time with people like this.
I know.
And these are the type of people that are attracted to me, and uh,
Run away.
it's hard.
Yeah,
I mean, it's funny because we kind of reacted, I think, to Joker 2 in a similar way.
right.
Because the whole
It's a
moral,
heartbreaking movie.
yeah, that's what I came away from it that I felt bad for him.
Hmm.
I went into it thinking I didn't like the first one. I didn't like the way people reacted to it. I didn't like the reaction. And I was like, at that time a year ago or whatever it was when it came out, I was like, oh, I want to see it because people are going to ask me about it. Because I'm,
Hmm.
a Batman fan or I'm a comic book fan or whatever. And I expected to hate it, and I came out just feeling, it's kind of like my mother would always watch like movies about killers or something and be like, "Oh, I felt bad for them," and I was like, "Oh, I really am
Yeah,
like my mother," because I was like, I felt bad for him.
I think you're supposed to. I think that's the
Yeah,
reaction the
yeah,
filmmaker intended.
yeah, yeah.
It is a tragedy.
Yeah, and I mean, we talk about subverting expectations ever since Ryan Johnson made that a phrase, but that really subverted everybody's expectations.
Yeah,
But I didn't come away from it angry. I just came away from it. That was a sad movie. That was a sad story,
yeah,
and that was interesting because it's kind of like the weight of the comic book history was kind of like um, on the shoulders of that, and they stopped and said, "Well, this character is not that."
yeah.
And I thought that was really interesting, but people really did not like that because
Well,
I saw that first one saying, "There's no way this guy can be the Joker. There's no way
right.
this guy can be the Joker. This makes no sense." And people are like, "Oh, you're too in your comic book world," and I'm just like, now I realize that people went to that movie and really thought the Joker they saw in The Dark Knight, oh, this is his origin,
Yeah.
or the Joker that they vaguely know of.
Yep.
And that's fascinating to me.
Yeah.
It's kind of scary too, but
Well,
because it's
and I
media literacy, right?
it's media illiteracy, and I don't say this unkindly. I mean this in the literal sense. It is an ignorance of the public about who these characters are and where they come
But
from.
even just what they've already seen. Forget
Yeah.
about like, oh, in Batman 256, the Joker did this. I mean, what they've already seen in
Well,
movies.
I think that that's the trickle down effect of Nolan, that it taught people that,
Everything has to be explained.
um, n- well, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, maybe that too, but also just that the characters that you know from childhood have far darker origins than you would have ever thought
Well,
possible.
yeah, that's something I think about a lot, actually. And something that spurred it on recently was I was watching an interview with Jim Carrey, and they asked him if he'd want to play the Riddler again. And he said, "Oh, do you mean like the graphic novel version?" I feel like Jim Carrey doesn't know he played the real Riddler. He probably thinks the Riddler Paul Dano played is the real Riddler. That there's like these secret graphic novels that are in the back of the store that have like the real adult Batman in them.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people think that because I had said to a couple of people when that movie came out, I was like, well, the Riddler's not like that. I mean, because I really like the classic Riddler, and I love how like Chuck Dixon kind of writes him as like this kind of loser of the four. He's really brilliant, but he's always screwing up, and
Yeah.
I love that kind of version of him. And whatever that was supposed to be was not that. But I got the impression from talking to people that they figure there's like these separate versions of the characters that are a lot darker. And they're not in these like the little floppy comics. They're not in the little floppy. They're like in these hardcover books.
Hmm. But next to the Alan Moore section, next you got
Next to
From
the Alan
Hell.
Moore, like Alice in Wonderland and Wendy Darling having sex comics. Yeah, yeah,
Yes. Yeah,
yeah,
you have to go through a room. You have to show your ID to get into the back of the comic book room.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fascinating. Can I say one more thing about Superman before we move on from it?
Sure, sure.
We
I didn't
probably
know we
should.
were
Well,
going
we're
to
coming
move
up on
on. I thought
like
we were going to just do 10 hours about
I
Superman.
think we're like 3 hours or something like that. But I really did not like the way that it treated Ma and Pa Kent. I thought it was in,
Okay.
I
Okay, that's interesting because that was one of the three things that I told you bothered me, but I ended up accepting it because I kind of justified it to myself like, who's to say they don't act like that? Because like when we started reading,
85 years of comic books, Brian.
okay, okay, but like when that shirt that you're wearing,
Yeah.
like the post-crisis comics, they were little old people. I always used to think they looked like munchkins
They
from
were little
Wizard
old
of
people, but
Oz.
they weren't idiots.
Okay, but
She
then
literally calls the television the box. She's like, "Doc, you gonna be on the
well, I
box
don't want to
right now?"
stereotype anybody. I don't want to stereotype people. Uh,
What? And
do
it's
you
like
think?
they're from Kansas,
Look, I'm
not
from
Southern
Long Island.
Mississippi.
Like,
What?
I'm from Long Island. Like, we're considered snobs in Long Island, so I don't
I'm
really
from
know what.
Alabama, and I don't know
Okay,
anybody like that. I mean,
so
I'm
people.
from.
So what is that about? Like, where does that exist? Is that
I
like
think that he
genealogy or
wants to
something?
show
So
the
you really
Kents.
think that's insulting? As somebody from the South, you can say that's insulting. I feel like I can't say that as somebody from Long Island.
I mean, I don't want to give him the power to say that's insulting. I feel like that's giving him too much
That's a good
authority.
answer. That's a good answer.
That's too much power. And that's the whole. This is the why I didn't talk about this in a video because I don't want to
Yeah.
give him the credit for it.
Yeah.
I don't want to let him have that. But yeah, I mean, it is the broadest, most like Ma and Pa Kettle version of
Okay.
those characters we have ever had. But they're dumber than Ma and Pa Kettle. They've apparently achieved nothing. They're living in this house, and when she says the
They
box,
didn't
I
have a
was like,
farm? They had a farm.
yeah, they are farmers. They've yes, but I'm just like it takes away. I think in James Gunn's mind, he's like, they're salt of the earth people. They taught him the
Right.
values that they wanted to teach. I think to him it makes sense, but to me, it's a huge throwaway of potential characters that we're really not going to get because there's nothing there.
Right.
There's you can't spend a half an hour with these people because they can't talk about anything.
All right. Well, that was one of the three things that bothered me in the
What were
movie.
the other two? Well, the way
Hawk
that Hawk,
Girl dropping
yeah,
Netanyahu. Uh,
but not the
am
screaming.
I allowed to say that? And the other thing was the message from his parents.
Oh.
Um,
Which is in 85 years of DC continuity, we've never had the Kryptonians being like, take him
well,
over.
that I think that's kind of strange
Yeah,
because, and I don't want to get too deep here, but or upset anybody, but
do it.
Krypton is kind of the Kryptonians is kind of the Jewish heritage of his creators,
It
right?
absolutely is. Anybody that's like, oh, you're bringing politics into it.
Yeah.
Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster were Jewish kids
And
from.
it's the Moses story. It's the Moses
Yes,
story, yeah.
yes.
So that's a little weird. But the way I've justified it to myself is that the original movie, the original movie was really considered that was a risk because this was something that was considered the fare of very low budget material. It was something considered childish. I watched there's a really interesting thing where CBS posted something from an old CBS Sunday Morning from 1982 about comic book movies. And it's interesting because Jack Kirby's in it and Spielberg's in it without his glasses and facial hair. And they talk a lot about the Superman movie, and they're talking about comic book movies, but everything else they talk about is a comic strip, like Little Orphan Annie, and they even talk about the Legend of the Lone Ranger with Clayton Spilsbury, and which
Interesting.
isn't even a comic. It was a radio show, even though there
Yeah.
was a comic strip. So, I mean, Superman, when they made that movie, I think it was thought of more as like the funny papers, because there was a Superman comic strip that lasted from almost the time he was created, I think 39 until 66,
Yeah.
where they replaced it with Batman because the TV show got big. And then that was canceled after but Superman was in the newspapers for decades. So I think to make it more serious, Tom Mankiewicz added an element of the Christ story to it.
Hmm. Hmm.
Very much with, I mean, that's all over the first movie, right? And then that's kind of in Superman Returns. It's in Man of Steel, certainly, and it's in Smallville.
It's in everything.
It's in everything since, pretty
Yeah.
much. And I think that's too heavy a load for Superman to carry as a
I can
character.
understand that.
He wasn't intended that way. And it's not, it doesn't work with his continued adventures. And I think that's what we want to really see here. We want to see a Superman that keeps continuing and having more stories and doesn't stop at a certain point, which seems to have happened with every other adaptation. And I think that might be because we're putting that Christ element on to Superman. And I really think it's outdated now because it was just something to show the adults in the audience, the original movie, this has depth. We're going to add this to it. And Marlon Brando's in it. And we've got to have, you know, so the message from Jor-El and Lara kind of eliminates that. Um, so in a way, I'm grateful that they did it because now we're finally kind of freed. And this is no offense to Christians or anything like that. It's just saying that Superman shouldn't have to represent that Christ allegory. I think it's too heavy for an adventure character too heavy a burden for an adventure character to carry. And I'm glad that we've eliminated it in this new movie, but at the same time, it's like, did it have to be, is that the only way we could have done it? And, you know, there, even if it's not God, even if it's not God and Christ, there is some kind of religious allegory or something, or maybe just the idea of the old country or where you come from with Krypton. So I don't know if you can be that flippant with it. I think it does have some meaning. It doesn't have maybe have the heavy meaning of uh, the Christian Bible, but it has some meaning and it has some importance. So I don't know if that's
Mhm.
something really you should do that with.
I don't know what to
I
say
don't
to
know. I
follow
don't
that
know
up.
what else. I don't know what else to say, you know?
That's a great place to kind of maybe wind this down because that's a lot
Yeah.
to think about. And I want to let you have the last word on that. Okay, well, what have you been working on? You want to talk a little bit about your latest alpha video
Yeah,
projects?
yeah. Um, well, I wanted to talk a little about a couple things that I licensed, for our Alpha New Cinema line, which I never liked that name because whoever came up with it was thinking of New Line Cinema, and then so many people call it Alpha New Line Cinema. But yeah, no, I just wanted to show a couple.
Joe,
Yeah, this one is have you heard of Brett Piper, who he's been around for decades. He does kind of stop motion
I have not.
and he started working with our benefactor Sam Sherman back in the 80s. He worked on the last movie Sam produced, Raiders of the Living Dead, and he does. he does stop motion and practical effects, and these are two of his movies, Redneck Mutants and Buster. And I just think what he does is great because he does. I mean, there's so much effort that has to go into stop motion and any kind of practical effects that anything like this. And I'm doing another one from another gentleman named Timothy Smythe, uh, Tyrannosaurus Rex. I just feel like anybody that does stop motion, there's so much effort into it that it should be honored or
Yeah,
looked.
especially independently without studio
Yeah, and
support.
he's been doing it for decades. I mean, he's done stuff for Troma. We put out something of his he made called Triclops years ago, that was kind of his tribute to the Cyclops from Bird Eye Gordon. And I know he wasn't incredibly happy with it at first because we had it on there was somebody who was trying to cut corners at the time, and we had it on a cheaper disc. We've since redone it on a better quality disc. But you never hear the good feedback. You only hear the
Right.
bad feedback when you make the
Yeah.
change. But I'm hoping he's happier with this, and I think there's really some value to it. And what I really liked is he has these two little as bonus features. There's these two little short adaptations of 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea and Journey to the Center of Earth by Jules Verne that are like they're like the Puppetoons or something. And
Oh wow.
I really like. I mean, it's all stop motion, and I like that more than the blood and gore. Maybe that says something about me.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I
Well, I know
really
you're
like
not
those.
huge into like gore horror and things like that. So if you're
Yeah,
vouching
I'm
for
more
this
into
stuff,
like psychological horror, I guess, and
yeah.
but that's a lot of the stuff that we get on this label. Um, but yeah, no, I really like this, and I think it has some value uh, to to fans in general because there's a lot of care and effort he puts into his stuff. It's I mean a lot of this some of the stuff we put out on this label is schlock or it's just you know butts and knives, but this is something that really he puts a lot of effort into it.
Is that a subgenre, butts and knives?
That's the best I can come. I mean, the best selling stuff we've done on that, the licensed stuff is always the stuff that has nudity in it.
Yeah.
There's
Blood
two
and
that
boobs.
yeah, there's two that I did. One two that I licensed. One called Bikini Planet, and another called The Serpent's Tongue. And those have sold because those are the best sellers because they have nudity,
Mm.
really. So that's the way it is. I don't know.
That is the way it is.
I
Yeah.
don't understand it. And
Staple of the market.
this one, Screamwalkers, is this is a film by a guy I know from Long Island. I'd like to think he's a friend of mine, Sean Q. King. He used to do. I first heard of him. He did a public access sketch comedy show with his friends called Slacker TV, and my sister-in-law had interviewed him for and the other guys for a Long Island newspaper, and I ended up meeting him at a screening of Bubba Hotep that Bruce Campbell appeared at, and we're kind of. Then they did something called the Gooligans, which was kind of like an update of the Groovy Ghoulies, where they were all
Nice.
different monsters. And I've tried to do something with him for a few years now with Alpha because he done something with the other guys from the show and some other people, an anthology. But my predecessor, Steve Kaplan, just made that so difficult to do, breaking up the royalties that never ended up happening. But he did this recently, Screamwalkers, which is all shot on video. So it's an SOV horror film, but it's really, it's I think anybody that likes this genre, it's artfully done. And again, he has a lot of practical effects. Um, it's kind of a tribute to the genre, it's a knowing kind of take on it. It's done, and he's got his own mask killer character that I believe the people that do the mask for the Scream character are going to do a mask for this character.
Oh,
I think
nice.
what is he? He's called uh the Copycat Killer. Um, but I, like I said, I like to think Sean's a friend, and it's gotten very good reviews so far. And again, there's some art to this one. It's not just schlock. So I would recommend this. And now the cover was done. Um, our artist Al Landron, he kind of did these retro covers a few years ago, which was just kind of repackaging old stuff in these kind of retro VHS covers. But I said, since, that's the style of what Sean did, let's do it in the style of this. And I think Al did a great job.
It looks good. Yeah.
So, these are two that we've done recently that I recommend that really I think the filmmakers really put an effort into them. And that's really, I mean, whatever the future of Alpha Video is, that's kind of the stuff I'm proudest of because, you know, I mean, hopefully it leads to streaming for them or whatever, but
Hmm.
the public domain stuff, a lot of it is available other places. But if I can, if it's a source of exposure or income for independent filmmakers, I hope it makes some difference. And some people haven't been happy. There's not a lot of money coming in, but I'd like to hope some people have been, happy. And
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure they have.
that's important to me. Because if
Well,
I
I
if I'm
still,
always in this industry, I don't know, but if I've helped a filmmaker get their film out there, then it all hasn't been for nothing.
yeah. Well, it's not, none of it's for nothing because I love the other stuff too. I have the stack of,
Well, yeah,
it is the public domain stuff, but I guess I'll cover this in one of my next big monthly
what's
physical
that?
media spotlights. But
Well, I guess the one thing that I did send you is that we've been doing
hmm
these pre-code double features, and the kind of the impetus for this is these are films that we already put out. A lot of these were films that I found at my former job, Streamline Films, uh, which was a stock footage library, but we had a lot of full films, and we were selling films to Alpha Video, and um, I would kind of go through the film cans there to find stuff that it's all Poverty Row stuff. These were transferred by my colleague Bonnie Cavett at the time. And I feel like the original releases of them kind of fell under the radar. I mean, until I came into the company, I don't think anybody knew the words pre-code. So,
that's
so kind of
crazy.
packaging them like this was my idea because I feel like they didn't uh, they didn't get a lot of attention at the time. And
Well, part of the game, I'm going to oldies.com right now
mhm.
to check on some of this. But part of the game is, and you know this too, but the studios are constantly finding ways to keep the catalog fresh, and that's what you have to do
Yeah,
because once the newness is worn off of a new release, you don't want that title to just sink like a stone. You've got to find a way to keep it kind of fresh. And packaging two movies that are thematically, pre-code movies
yeah.
for, I was gonna look up prices so I could be like, oh, it's all, I think they're all sub $10 on oldies.com.
I think, yeah.
Let's see.
Yeah, they are a little
Manhattan
more
Tower. I'm gonna
expensive.
look up Manhattan Tower.
Yeah, and the thing that the if you just want to get the original release that has one yeah,
$11.30 for two
yeah.
movies.
So that's the thing. I mean, I think one of the things with Alpha Video that gets criticized is we have a lot of films that other people have out, right? And that's true because it's public domain stuff. But these films, a lot of them don't have another release. So, they're kind of, regardless of whether or not the best movies ever made, they don't have any other releases and it's that's
No,
something
you don't
unique.
have to like justify it. They're great, and I love these. And I watched.
You like this one, right? You saw
Did you watch
you
The Hole in the
posted.
Wall? I mean,
I
you
did
did because you
because
worked.
yeah. No, I have to watch all of them to
You
write.
watch. Yeah, I know this is stupid. As soon as I said it, I was like, of course
No,
you
no,
did.
people ask me that all the time, which I
Well,
find.
because and you wrote all of this
Yeah,
too.
yeah. Which just
All
looks
of
like a
this.
block of text,
I
but
thought it was fun, and I thought it was a cool look to see. So it's 1929. I think it's a Paramount picture, if my memory serves.
a lot of the 1929 films we've done uh recently are all Paramount because for whatever reason Paramount has never released this stuff, and some of it was transferred by fans
Yeah.
from probably 16 millimeter cut downs, and Hole in the Wall is an example. I think you said you talked to people at Paramount and they like have no interest in
I've been in the Paramount archive. I've been in the
but
vaults where the
they're not
materials for this stuff is stored.
But yeah, yeah, and that's important to remember. We don't
There's
have the
more
negatives
movies.
of any of this stuff.
Yeah, these old movies are not going pre-code movies. Well, really, especially anything in the public domain. I don't think they're going to be touching because there's really no incentive
Well,
for
it
them
just
to
seems
do
like
so.
Paramount in particular, they're not interested. I mean, Warner's has done a lot of their silent and pre-code material. But Paramount, for whatever reason, some of this stuff never gotten any kind of release.
Yeah. And I don't
So
think there's a market for it now, so they're not going to bother
I
with it.
don't know. There might not be a market for alpha anymore. I don't know.
Well, when I say that, I mean it's going to cost them tens of thousands of
Oh
dollars to do
yeah,
a
yeah,
restoration for this,
yeah.
whereas you don't have that cost associated with it because you're scanning a print and you can just get it directly out. But I thought it was fun. I thought the whole look at the spiritualism racket circa
Well,
1920
yeah, and we did another movie
was cool.
with the same kind of thorough line called Darkened Rooms with Evelyn Brent and Neil Hamilton, best known as Commissioner Gordon on the Batman TV series. But that was another thing where it was about phony mediums.
Hmm.
So that was really like a popular thing in 1929.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that was because Houdini's wife was Bess Houdini was very into that because she was always trying to contact Harry from beyond the dead, and then somebody would tell her, "Oh, I can talk to Harry," and then she'd find out he was a fake and expose it. And Houdini was doing that before he died too, because he wanted to talk to his mother. So I don't know why that was so in the if that was why it was so in the
I don't know, but it was definitely in the zeitgeist at that time.
I mean, it's kind of like, whatever, like when they made two Lombada movies at the same time or something,
Yeah.
It's like, so yeah, I mean, so yeah, we've got two of those pre-code double features out now, and then three more will be out at the end of the month.
Nice. I
So
love them, and I am
yeah,
so
I mean,
glad
they're
that
not
you.
major studio films, but some of them are really interesting. Carnival Lady, Manhattan Tower, Docks of San Francisco. Some of them are, and I tried to put them uh, with similar uh stories together, like
Yeah.
two circus movies or two circus related movies, or one's a San Francisco movie, one's a Manhattan movie, two movies of a lot of movies of women in trouble, because that was a regular theme of pre-code movies.
Yeah.
Because one of the things I talk about in the little intro I did, um, that's on all the back of the pre-code double features is that really back then the studios thought that women were their main audience, which I find really interesting. And then uh, after the code came in, we kind of had these kind of very strict male and female roles
Hmm.
for for Hollywood product, and I find that really interesting.
It is interesting.
Because, something people always say to me is, "Oh, Hollywood's always been the same." And the thing is, it really hasn't been.
No.
It's always changing, and it's always changing to social mores or cries for censorship or whatever.
Hmm. Well, thank you for keeping these things in print
Well,
and
I hope it
available
can
for
keep
people to see
going.
them.
I hope it can keep going.
I hope so too.
I
Well,
appreciate
I
it.
guess we'll put a pin in this one for now. Anything else you want to tell people or link to or reference before we sign
No,
off?
no, I mean, there's an Alpha Video Facebook. Still, the best place to get our stuff is oldies.com because it's cheapest. It's still, even though oldies.com is now a separate company owned by MVD, it's still the cheapest place to get the Alpha Video. So, and if anybody wants to contact me, you can contact me through the Alpha Video Facebook.
And if you want the alpha video, your origin story of how you got the alpha video, people should check out our first conversation, which is you
Yeah,
noted at
that
the
was
start of
great.
this
Yeah,
was
let
like
me tell the whole thing. I
a
loved
year ago. Yeah.
it.
Brian, it's good to talk to you, man.
You too, Heath. You too, Heath. I'm happy to come back anytime you want.